him for the possession of unlicensed firearms and ammunition. Now, the younger of the men has officially been charged with murder. This is after he was taken through an identity parade. The man will make an appearance in the Pretoria North Magistrates Court this morning. Eyewitness News.
Meanwhile, a community policing forum member in the Northwest has also been killed. Tshidi Madia was shot last week Thursday and found dead in his car. Police say Madia was attacked shortly after leaving his home in Krondal near Rustenburg. His girlfriend says she found Madia's car had crashed into the neighbor's fence with a gunshot wound to his head. Police spokesperson Sabata Mokhabone.
Major General Asane indicated that community police forums are legally established structures to assist and support police in the fight against crime, and that killing of those who volunteer to ensure safer communities cannot be condoned.
There are growing calls for justice in the rape of a 7-year-old girl at an Eastern Cape school. The child's mother says the little girl was raped in October last year. Bergview College has come under fire for transferring the pupil to another school following the ordeal. The principal is allegedly refusing to provide police with his DNA sample. The school is now facing deregistration from the Provincial Education Department. Civil rights movement Not In My Name has called for an overhaul on how schools handle the rape of children. Not In My Name's Temba Masango.
Brutal rape of a 7-year-old child, Cwecwe, is an abhorrent crime that demands immediate and unwavering action. We stand in solidarity with all forward-thinking South Africans in condemning this atrocity and echo their calls for justice, accountability and reform.
Masango says authorities should deal decisively with schools that mishandle sensitive cases.
Law enforcement must prioritize this case with urgency, ensuring a trauma-informed approach to avoid re-victimization. We are also condemning the school for its nonchalant behavior towards this case, and we are saying that justice needs to be served.
At the same time, AfriForum's private prosecution unit has advised its client, which is the principal, against providing a sample of his DNA, arguing that this request is unlawful without sufficient evidence. AfriForum spokesperson Barry Bateman.
AfriForum's private prosecution unit rejects with contempt any suggestion that the unit is protecting a suspected rapist from investigation.
And the World Health Organization has made an appeal for $8 million while aid groups warn of a worsening humanitarian crisis in war-torn Myanmar following a magnitude 7.7 earthquake. Nearly 72 hours after the disaster, the country's military leaders have confirmed that 1,700 people have died and hundreds more are missing. They are also still carrying out airstrikes against armed resistance groups who have been fighting them for 4 years. The quake was felt hundreds of kilometers away in neighboring countries like Thailand, where the death toll has now risen to 18. In Bangkok, rescue efforts are ongoing for 76 construction workers who are trapped under a collapsed high-rise building. Gold is trading at $3,114.42 an ounce. The rand is at 18.42 to the dollar, 23.87 to the pound, 19.96 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $73.33 a barrel.
Some 10-minute-long delays remain on the N14 East. This is in Krugersdorp, leaving Beyersnodere Drive for Malibongwe. This is due to an earlier incident which saw the carriageway completely closed off to traffic. You can continue driving with care. These will continue to dwindle down. City of Johannesburg seeing some stop-and-go traffic. This is on the M1 heading north towards the Uncle Charlie's interchange. N1 also quite slow. This is leaving the southwestern townships, leaving the Diepkloof interchange, heading north towards the N17. Please drive with care.
A partly cloudy day in store for Gauteng with scattered showers and thunder showers expected. The temperatures will peak at highs of between 23 and 24 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour: a 27-year-old man has been charged for the murder of 6 community patrollers in Soshanguve.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with Clement Manyathela
On 702.
Let's Walk the Talk, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app,
DSTV channel 856,
92.7 and 106 FM.
7 minutes after 9 o'clock. Dumelang, happy Monday. Welcome to the Clement Manyathela Show on this last day of March. This is the 31st of March today. Thank you for being with us here on 702. I hope you had a wonderful weekend and I hope you're well this morning. We start with the 702 open line on 011-883-0702. The WhatsApp line is 072-702-1702. Do we or do we not have a deal? That's the question now, as we anticipate Wednesday as the date when budget is expected to be voted on. If government cancels the proposed rates because there's no support, and I'm talking about the VAT rate now, I wonder what the consequences of that are. Because this would then necessitate, I would imagine, deep cuts in spending, including on health and education. Should budget not be approved by Parliament, that Section 29 of the Public Finance Management Act comes into play because it allows the Finance Minister to authorize departments to spend at least 45% of their previous allocations. But that money must be spent on essential items like salaries, like new spending programs that are not allowed. In fact, new spending programs will not be allowed until Parliament approves this current budget. And I don't know if you're worried about the fact that we are where we were the last time. When I asked you on a Monday, do we have a deal or do we not have a deal? Because the following day, the finance minister was expected to table that budget and he ended up tabling it with no deal between the DA and the ANC. Is that what's going to happen before Wednesday? News 24 is reporting that there is some kind of an agreement between the two parties, that the DA and the ANC are close to a deal on the economy, just so that they can save the GNU. So we'll try and get someone from the DA and the ANC to give us a sense just at 10 o'clock on where are the talks, what is happening with the talks, are they finding each other or not, and what are the consequences if they are not. Fikile Mbabulula said the party would not sell out on transformation. So what do? Do you throw the DA out of the GNU? And if you do that, what options does the ANC have? Look, you can let me know your thoughts on this. Shall we call it an impasse again? We've been here. This is now the third time. 011-883-0702. Your WhatsApp's on 072-702-1702. There's this terrible, devastating case that I would really want us to explore on and just talk about it. About the 7-year-old child at Begview College in the Eastern Cape who was sexually assaulted. And there are a lot of people that are coming through to support the family, offering even their legal services for the family. Oh, but my goodness, it's just a startling reminder of how our institutions sometimes fail to protect the most vulnerable in our society. And I think it is an indictment of a system that just often fails survivors of sexual violence. If you look at how the case has been handled from the school, the institution itself, it's just so devastating. And I want us to have a broader chat about it. How do we keep our children safe? And I know children are not safe at home because our children get raped at home. Children are not safe at schools. Children are not safe in churches. So there's really no place that is a refuge. There's no place that you can wholeheartedly trust as a safe zone, a safe environment for your kids. And I don't know, as a society, how do we feel about that? Because the people who perpetrate the sexual violence are from the very societies. They're part of our families. They're part of our society. So it's just so sad listening to how the parents found out that the 7-year-old child was raped at the school. And I'm hoping that we can find someone in the Eastern Cape who can speak to us from the family or maybe the police as well, because we have to somehow put pressure as well from all different sections so that there can be justice here. And this is how we do it. because there are many, many other children who get raped in the matter. It's just thrown under the carpet. Some of these cases happen in far-flung areas. They don't have access to the media. They don't have access to social media. So in cases where we can, where these cases are being exposed, all of us have to do our best to put pressure, not for anything else, but so that we ensure that there's justice, especially for these little ones that are the most vulnerable in our society. So if you've been following up this case, please let me know your thoughts on what do we do as a society? How do we move forward? How do we protect our children? I'll take your calls on 011-883-0702. I'll take your WhatsApps as well. At 10 o'clock, we are going to get an update on this deal or no deal in as far as the budget is concerned from the ANC and the DA. 10:30, we're going to start a new series today about the afterlife. And I know often this is something that people find uncomfortable to talk about, but why? Why is it uncomfortable to talk about it? And I think we must have uncomfortable conversations. I think that's how we grow, right? That's how we grow emotionally. That's how we grow spiritually. I think that's how we grow in our becoming in this world. So we're going to look over the next couple of weeks at what different belief systems say about the afterlife. Some people believe in eternal life, whatever form that eternal life takes. There are different beliefs about whether heaven and hell, for instance, are literal or figurative. Some people believe in reincarnation. So different belief systems have different viewpoints about what life after death is. So over the next couple of weeks, we're going to focus on that. So today we are going to start with what Christians believe about the afterlife. Do they believe people get judged? Do they believe people go to heaven or hell based on their faith and actions in this life? So we're going to bring in a professor, in fact, someone who studied theology, someone who will speak to us about what even different subgroups within the Christian religions believe. We'll look at other religions, other belief systems as well outside of religion. That's at 10:30 over the next couple of weeks. I'm really looking forward to this. I think we're going to learn a lot. At 11 o'clock, we're going to do our Family Matters feature. And today, we're discussing healthy parental blame. How does living in victimhood hinder our ability to heal and take control of our lives? And I ask that question because sometimes when we blame our parents, quote unquote, we end up living in victimhood. And that becomes a hindrance to an opportunity to heal, to opportunity to control our lives. We mature when we realize that our parents are actually flawed, like all of us. They're human beings. But because we've grown up putting our parents on a pedestal, they're not capable of any wrongdoing. They're not capable of taking decisions that are not in our best interest. They are. They are human beings. The same way that as much as you love your kids now, you may take decisions that are not in their best interest. And maybe you're unaware of it. But when you become aware of it, what do? So I want us to have that conversation because I think it's important. It lifts the parents from the pressure of they are these holy, angelic beings that can't do wrong. But I also think we need to think and reflect on our parents as human beings, because the moment you have that empathy, the moment you realize that your parents are human beings with their own traumas, with their own shortcomings, even when you pick up moments where they did you wrong, you're able to talk about it or reflect on it and move past it and have empathy to understand that they're human beings like you. There's a developmental shift in how we view our parents. When we're young children, our parents are godlike in their power. As teens, working on creating our separate identities, we're often acutely aware of our parents' failings. And then once we reach adulthood, ideally we have a more balanced view of our parents, right? We're clearly seeing their strengths and weaknesses in perspectives and even with more tenderness. So we're going to have a conversation about healthily blaming our parents. What does it look like and how do you move past that healthy blame? That's a conversation on our Family Matters feature at 11 o'clock. That's the show coming up over the next 3 hours.
Clement Manyathela, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
Hi, Clement. I'd like to stay anonymous. The 7-year-old story, it really breaks my heart. And, you live in a world where it's just very cruel to kids. And I myself was abused and sexually abused by a neighbor growing up. And even when you try to say anything, when I said anything, he was, let me say, smart in a way to make it look like I was lying, and it still eats me up till today. I'm 30 years old, and this happened when I was roughly 6 years old, when I was still staying in Soweto. So, and it's really, honestly, it breaks you as it broke me as a child, breaks me as an adult. There are certain things, or if someone just randomly touches me, it's you gonna have to kind of like touch me in a way that you cannot ask for permission. So it's a personal thing for me. The story is really, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, man. I really am. I'm sorry that you've gone through that experience, and I'm especially sorry that even the perpetrator wanted to manipulate you and make you feel like you were lying about the incident. And I'm so sorry that you didn't get the support that you needed. And I think that's part of our problem as families and as societies is, and again, linked to this conversation we're going to have at 11 o'clock, is that there are certain people even in our societies that we have put on a pedestal. And I think we need to be honest about that. That is why there are so many kids out there. Some of them are adults now listening to this conversation who were molested, who were sexually assaulted when they were young. They've never spoken about it. You know why? Because where do they even begin to tell you that that priest or that pastor or that reverend that is so respected and revered by the community and the family, or was a family pastor, or was a family therapist, was a family elder, that is the person who has molested them and sexually assaulted them? Because we have created this veil of secrecy, the culture of secrecy in our families, where we adore more the unity than actually being real and addressing issues head on. How many times are we told in our families, no, let's not talk about that, or you can't say stuff like that, because we have to preserve the unity. We don't want conflict. But what that does to people who are victims, it breaks them. How do we get families to open up? How do we get families to stop putting even our fathers, even our neighbors, even our brothers, our sisters? We are all human beings. We are capable of faltering. All of us. And the minute there are certain people in our society that we think are so precious and angelic, that's the moment that we fail the victims. Because how many times have we heard of priests or pastors or uncles or brothers or even fathers who have done that to their children? How many times have you heard that? And these are the people who are supposed to protect them. And it's so sad that even in this case, this is, in fact, if you go check hashtag justice for Cwecwe, the mother has spoken extensively about what happened here. And I'm going to try explain to some people that have missed the story. I have to warn you, though, that, some of the descriptions by the mom were a little graphic. So this may be too graphic for you on how the mom explains how she found out that this child was actually raped. So the mom gives us a story of what happened on the day that they believe that this child was molested or raped. There was a time when the child came back from school and didn't talk much. And there's a time when the child started complaining about stomach aches. And she kept on going to the bathroom. And she would come back after 10 minutes. And then she would complain about now the buttocks that are painful. And the mom says they just thought she was constipated or had bad diarrhea. So they didn't pay much attention to it, so they just gave her medication. And she went back to sleep. In the middle of the night, she woke up again. And they thought maybe it's a stomach bug. And in the morning of the next day, the mom explains that her and her husband were in the kitchen and they saw that the child was struggling to walk. She was in excruciating pain. And that's when they decided to check to see what's going on. And they're saying at the time it was still a bit dark, so there was load shedding. So the mom used the torch, the phone's torch, just to check what's happening. And the mom says, and I quote now, "As I tended to her, I saw a huge opening on her buttocks, and she was red around the lining. And I informed my husband, and he came to check as well, and was met with horrific sight. But sexual assault slipped our minds as it didn't occur to us that could have been it. Since my husband was absent at work on Tuesday, I told him to go in and I'll take Cwecwe myself to the doctor. And when they got to the doctor actually confirmed that this child was raped. The doctor confirmed that there was a huge opening. That huge opening that the mom saw is of sexual assault. So the doctor checked her on the front as well and confirmed that there's a penetration as well. But it's not as deep as the one at the back. So the doctor then advised them to go open a case. The case has since been opened. This is an 8-year-old child. When the dad asked the child what really happened, the child explained that she was at school, the driver who normally picks her up came late, and she was made to do some chores, and then she felt tired, and it looks like she was drugged, at least from how the child explained it to the dad. She looked tired, and then she just woke up feeling tired and in pain. Now the question is, who may have done this? The child explained that the person who worked at the school gave her chores. So it looks like the last person the child saw was someone who worked at the school. So the mom is now asking for DNA samples from even people in the school. Apparently this person who works at the school and the driver who picked up this child are cooperating with the police. But the parents also want the principal of the school, who, as we've heard on Eyewitness News, is being represented by AfriForum. They want that principal to also provide DNA samples so that they're able to check who could have perpetrated this horrific thing on this child. But the principal doesn't want to do that as yet. AfriForum has explained why. They want at least strong evidence of, is there anything linking this principal to this thing before the DNA results or DNA samples can be shared with the police. And I wonder where you sit on this one. When there's a child who's in pain, I understand that everybody has rights and you don't just get everybody's DNA tests. But when a child has been raped and the family says we're trying to find the perpetrator, I have no problem as a school principal. I would have no problem with saying, here's my DNA results, here's my DNA samples, go check that. Because you want to satisfy the parents who are seeking justice. You want the police to also satisfy themselves that these are the leads, these are the people to look at, and these are not the people to look at. Unless you're worried about your DNA samples are going to somehow be misused for what? In this case, they want to see if there's any correlation to what they have found in this child's genitals. But AfriForum says the principal is not going to do that until the police are able to provide some kind of evidence that there's something that can be linking the principal here. And I'm saying this is not about any linking. If someone came here, God forbid, and said someone has been molested within this office, we want all the men to provide their DNA samples, why would we say no to that? And it's not to say that this principal may have probably done it. He probably wasn't even at school at the time. What is wrong with saying, here you go? I want to assist the investigation. I want the police to be satisfied that we are not now looking for a perpetrator at the school because the DNA samples came negative. We're going to change our focus now to the driver or to the neighbors. I feel like it's unnecessarily frustrating the process of investigation. You can share your thoughts as well on 011-883-0702. My heart was just so heavy when I read the story of this 8-year-old child who is struggling to walk, who is in excruciating pain. It's just so painful for the child to deal with something like that because it's going to change the trajectory of her life completely. It's going to change so much about her. Spare thought for this family that is in the Eastern Cape. Your calls on 011-883-0702. WhatsApp's on 072-702-1702.
Your voice.
Your station.
Your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela
On 702.
Sister, you're calling from Bramley. Good morning.
Hey, Clement, how are you?
Good, sister. How are you? Go ahead.
Yeah, Clement. Yeah, Clement, I was just listening to this from the morning. Last week, I think Ubongani had two people, I think the minister and I think somebody who was representing women abuse, GBV and all of that. And the stats were so scary when we found out that only 4% of cases that have been reported have been, they've managed to really deal with those cases. And now we have a child here who's 7, who we know very well that the child has been raped based on what the doctor has said, right? And the principal, if he was the last person in the school, I don't see why would he be against giving evidence, giving his DNA, because all we want is to start clearing people's names to say, okay, this one didn't do it, this one didn't do it. You know what I mean? I understand that he has rights, and I understand his human rights and his dignity. However, as an adult and as a principal who has to look after those kids, I don't understand why would he go to the lawyers to say, defend me, I don't want to give my DNA. So this leads to suspicion. And secondly, it's not going to go away, whether he gives his DNA or not. And the fact that he doesn't give his DNA, it makes it worse for him, because then people are going to think, why is he running away? Why is he getting lawyers to deal with it? There's a child here, guys, and I think men are doing this. Some men are doing this because they know they can get away with it. A child will be 15 years when the first time they set foot in court. This child, this 7-year-old, 7 years later, this will be the first time the child sets the foot in court, and that's why some men know that I can do it and get away with it, and nobody will do anything.
Yeah, it's just so sad, sister. Yeah. Thank you so much for your call. I do agree as well. I get that this man has rights. You don't just give DNA samples, and maybe we're different people. But I'm very sympathetic. As I said, if I work in this office building, in our floor, someone gets molested on our floor, the police say we need DNA results of all the men here. Why am I refusing that? Why? What's going to happen? Just providing DNA samples that are going to help in police investigations. Especially when I know I've not done it, that clears me. In fact, it helps the police refocus the investigation. The police then are not going to waste resources trying to investigate people at the school because they have seen the DNA samples. They don't correlate with what they found in this child's genitals. Why are you refusing to do that? Why are you refusing to cooperate to help the parents who are devastated by a child who's in pain find justice? We've asked AfriForum for an interview because they're representing this principal, and they're telling us that They will not come on air to speak to us, but they'll address their issues in further correspondence. So we'll wait to see what statement they'll be sending out and how they'll further justify why this principal is not going to provide the DNA samples. It's 9:32. Let's get the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. We'll come back with more of your calls and your WhatsApps as well. Sfiso, hi.
Thanks, Clement. Good morning. A 27-year-old man has been charged for the murder of 6 community patrollers in Soshanguve. The accused is set to appear in the Pretoria North Magistrates Court this morning. He was arrested after the patrollers at the Merimi Informal Settlement in Soshanguve were killed last week. The Gauteng government has been accused of turning a blind eye to the alleged misuse of funds set aside for the establishment of a drug rehabilitation centre in Tembisa. In the 2018-2019 financial year, the provincial government set aside 20 million rand for the planning phase of the facility, but more than 34 million has since been spent. The contractor was given 14 million rand more because they needed more money to continue with the project. And Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei has warned of a forceful retaliation if the country is attacked following a threat by US President Donald Trump. Khamenei made the remarks during a speech on Eid, the holiday marking the end of the fasting month of Ramadan. In an interview on Saturday, Trump said Iran will be bombed if it does not reach a deal on its nuclear program. And those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 10 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
We start in the city of Johannesburg in the CBD M2 West, seeing 10-minute long delays from City Deep until you get to the Crown Interchange, Baragwana. So this is at the Deep Kloof Interchange, N1, N12 split, seeing some high traffic volumes from most approaches. So please do expect delays. Chris Hani Road, once you're off the tarmac, seeing a bit of queuing traffic going past Deep Kloof Zone 6. So that's round about the Chris Hani Baragwana Hospital until you get to the University of Johannesburg, Soweto campus. And then look out for some mild to moderate congestion as you'd expect in the Sandton region. So this is on the N3. N3 heading north, queuing. Also 10-minute long delays from Alexander Township to the Baklu Interchange, and then stop and go traffic in Marauda. This is on Cedar Road as you leave Witkoppen Road, and then in the nation's capital, still seeing some stop and go traffic at Main in Naumapius in Irene, as well as Eskom Bakele Drive getting out of the CBD. I'll have your next traffic update in 30 minutes or as it happens.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Africa Milani.
Weekday mornings,
4 to 6.
We also need to be quite optimal in using the money we have access to, given the fact that it's only a fraction of what we need to improve the infrastructure in this country.
I think one of the things the president did hint on, it's not quite clear how it might happen, but it's time that the private sector became involved in the water sector infrastructure development and also planning as well for the future. And I'm not seeing that happening fast enough.
Kevin Winter is an emeritus professor at UCT, also with the Future Water Institute.
Africa Milani.
4 to 6 on 702.
Corporates that care promotes and encourages corporate leaders and all citizens to walk the talk for a better South Africa. Catch Corporates That Care this Wednesday at 10 to 9, featuring Makulu Media. The CEO, Rowan Pybus, will be in conversation with Bongani Bingwa. Join us every Wednesday as we highlight the efforts of companies and brands dedicated to building our country. Corporates That Care is a Prime Media Cares initiative with 702 and Prime Media Outdoor. 702, let's walk the talk and make a difference together.
When it comes to corporate travel, South African Airways knows what you need. SAA services are designed specifically for the business traveler. Experience competitive rates, flexible travel options with waived change fees, and fully refundable and flexible tickets for a hassle-free journey. SAA dedicated key account management means your travel needs are meticulously handled every step of the way. Plus, earn Voyager miles on every trip and relax in our luxurious business class lounges. South African Airways, where your travel needs are our priority. We don't just fly you, we prioritize your travel needs. Visit flysaa.com or call your nearest travel agent to tailor your corporate travel experience. South African Airways, transforming business travel.
When you need a bucky for business, you want tough and reliable and a proper warranty. Kia's K2 Bucky comes with an unlimited kilometer 5-year warranty. So you get to drive 900 million, 82, 407 million and 20. Let's just say you can drive for a gazillion kilometers. With up to 40 grand cash back, your business can go further with a Kia Bucky.
Kia, movement that inspires.
The Money Show. Weekday evenings at 6.
Fikile Mbalula says there's no deal. What is the DA side telling you? They seem to be at the end of their patience.
The DA had already broadened its demand. They were not just talking about the budget. And then this week they said, you know, what we actually need is we need some sort of shared control over the economy. And
Carol Payton, editor-at-large at Business 24.
The Money Show.
On 702. 702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA CIB, honored as the best research house for the 8th consecutive year at the JSC Spy Awards 2024. Your story matters. ABSA is a registered FSP.
The Council for the Built Environment, an entity under the South Africa's Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, is set to host the inaugural Public Works and Infrastructure Summit tomorrow. It's taking place at the Sandton Convention Centre, and this year's summit will be held under the theme Turning South Africa into a Construction Site, Growing the Economy and Creating Jobs. You can catch this show live from the Public Works and Infrastructure Summit for all the live updates, highlights and more. Find out how the Council for the Built Environment plans to optimize asset life cycles using public-private partnerships and ensuring equitable infrastructure investments. The Clement Manyathela Show live from the Public Works and Infrastructure Summit happening at the Sandton Convention Centre tomorrow. Brought to you by the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure on 702.
Your voice.
Your station.
Your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
On 702.
It's 22 minutes now before 10 o'clock. I'm taking your calls on 011 883 0702. The WhatsApp line is 072 702 1702. We have an 8-year-old child that was raped. The parents are devastated, trying to look for answers and trying to find justice. We have a principal where it's believed this rape happened, who is refusing to give his DNA samples. AfriForum is representing this principal, their legal unit. We've asked them for an interview. They said they're not speaking yet. They will be sharing further correspondence, I imagine, maybe with the police. We've tried to get a hold of the police. The police do not want to chat to us. In fact, the producers are told if we have questions, we must ask them, but they're not doing interviews, which is quite strange for me. It's so strange. Why are the police not able to come and take questions about something so tragic that's transpired? We're not asking for any sensitive information. We want to know how far is the investigation. Like, is there any success with following on the leads? Because it doesn't make sense that this is a case that's happened and to this day there still seem to be nothing really that's picked up by the officers. So we've sent the police questions because they've asked for the questions. They want to respond on text. They don't want to do an interview. So we've sent them those questions that we have. Hopefully they'll respond. When they respond, I'll read you their responses. I'm asking you this morning, how do we even protect our children? How do we protect our children when they're not safe in our homes? How do we protect them when they're not safe in schools, when they're not safe in churches? And I would suggest that maybe we need to begin by having conversation with our own children. Maybe as early as possible, we need to tell our children that, hey, when someone touches you like this, that is inappropriate. You have to scream, ask for help. Maybe we need to tell our children that when someone wants to kiss you in a particular way or hold you the minute you feel uncomfortable, that is what we call sexual sexual assault, or that's what we call, that person is putting you in an uncomfortable position. You have to speak out. Maybe we need to have these scary conversations with our children. And maybe that's going to help in protecting them. Because they know that, because some of our children, there are people who have gone through this and they didn't see it as anything that's wrong. Because here's a pastor or here's an uncle who's respected in society. Here's someone who's a celebrity, or here's someone who's their father who told them that whatever ridiculous story of why they're touching them inappropriately, I'm doing this because it's going to help protect you in future, or I'm touching you like this because as a father, this is part of a ritual to welcome you into, as a teenager, whatever. There's stupid, ridiculous explanations that are given to these kids who don't know any better. Are you having conversations with your children like that? And I'm getting messages here from people who have been molested, who were sexually assaulted, who didn't talk about it. Some of them spoke about it, but as families and societies, we told them to shush because that's going to create so much drama and instability. And we need to start taking accountability for all these people, these perpetrators we've defended in the name of uniting our families, in the name of trying to avoid drama. Let's start with your WhatsApp voice notes.
Good morning, Clement. I don't understand why the principal is refusing to give DNA test. My kids are at school under the care of the principal. So the principal actually is the one who was supposed to encourage people to go and make DNA tests. It can't be that he's the one who's refusing. No, we must get something to force him to give the DNA test. Abraham Shoshanguve, thank you very much.
Clement, the principal of that school must give the police the DNA test. He must not resist. And then Alfred Forum, let the police do their job, because there's an abuse there and sexual abuse of a child. Also, schools must do what you call police clearance. People who work at schools must have police clearance. Thanks.
Good morning, Clement. It's Joseph from Jamestown. So I just wanted to ask, were there no CCTV cameras, or are there no CCTV cameras on the premises of this school? Because now they can check who was still at the school and also who was no longer there, just to eliminate. And number two, to just find out the people that were at the school. Like people, like it would usually be that everyone has got a phone with them. So where was that phone pinging? Like, if I can use the words from Zenzo Meiwa's case to say they were pinging somewhere. Yeah, so we need to check that maybe probably before we talk about the DNA samples or something like that.
Yeah, but also the principal would be the one that answers those questions, right? Or even AfriForum. That's why we asked them for an interview this morning. I wanted to find out, okay, was the principal at the school, for instance, why is he refusing to share that DNA samples? What does he believe is going to happen once he shares that? Because if anything, he's assisting. This thing may have happened, and I say may, guys, because we don't know yet where this rape may have transpired. We don't know for sure. When you look at the timeline of events, did it happen when this child was picked up at school? When this child was being transported home? Did it happen maybe when this child got home? Because the parents only really picked it up a day or so after. That there's something wrong here. This child is now in excruciating pain. I don't think they picked up on the day. So we don't know when it happened. But all that information will come as we probe, as we ask questions. This person who works at the school that this child says, she was given some chores to do by this man at the school, and she was feeling tired, and then she woke up later when she was told, oh, your school transport is here. Could it be that she was drugged? We don't know. Are there cameras at the school? Will the principal at least assist with that? And where are the police in all of this? Because the police are able to tell us, answer some of these questions we have without compromising the investigation. In fact, we've just received a statement now from the Eastern Cape SAPS. They've sent us a message saying that they have been told They have been advised not to take any interviews regarding this case, but they will share the statement with us. And they've shared the statement with us, and the statement says, I'll just read you some important bits. It says, the SAPS condemns this heinous crime in the strongest terms and reaffirms its commitment to ensuring justice for the victim while providing all the necessary support to the affected family. The incident was reported on the 16th of October in 2024 to the Matatiele SAPS. A case of rape was registered, and the suspects are still being sought. The victim, a minor, received medical and psychological care. The SAPS Family Violence, Child Protection and Sexual Offences Unit is handling the investigation with the utmost urgency. The victim was referred to this Tutuzela Care Center for Specialized Medical and Trauma Support. The mother, being an SAPS member, is receiving employee wellness support. The SAPS is working closely with social workers and victim support organizations to ensure the family receives comprehensive assistance. Anyone with information related to this case is urged to contact the SAPS, and the SAPS remains committed to fighting gender-based violence and protecting the most vulnerable in society. The statement doesn't even answer even one question that I have for the police, but it doesn't help because they're just throwing a statement at us. They're not really willing to come in and take questions and clarify to you as people that the SAPS work for as to what's happening now with that investigation. Let's go to Papla, who's calling us from Easteras. Papla, good morning.
Morning, Clement. What a very sad story indeed. You know, Clement, the victims of this heinous crimes, they never get justice. You know, our very own Deputy Minister of Social Development, Henrietta Bogopane Zulu, she came out, Clement, and said she fell pregnant through this rape by the principal at the special needs school. She fell pregnant. So it's not just denial. And the principal refused to have a DNA test up until now. And I read this article again this morning. At that stage, he was a senior guy in Department of Education. So these victims never get justice. Why didn't the ANC, she's a senior member, I mean she's a deputy minister for Pete's sake, who claims that this man raped me. She was grade 8 also, Clement, grade 8. She's a child. But there was no justice up until now. I have sent you that WhatsApp article to read if you want to read it for yourself. Why was nobody, why didn't the colleagues, why didn't the minister of whatever stood up for her and said, this is my colleague, it's not going to happen to you. This man must face the might of the law. It never happened.
Yeah. And yeah, even the resources, like the police, you know, because the police, I mean, we've come to expect our ministers do this all the time, right? When there's a case that catches media attention, they run to the family's home. They're so sympathetic. They speak on, you know, the cameras are behind, are there following them, and they come and they express sympathy, and we will leave no stone unturned, and they rally resources towards that case. And then suddenly a day later, there is a suspect that's been found because there's pressure that is being put from the higher echelons of the SAPS. And I don't know if that pressure is being put now. I mean, it had to take social media where the matter was discussed there. The parents have shared the story. Celebrities have come out to do videos of, we need justice for this child. You've got political parties. I was reading a statement from the EFF this morning. They've also spoken out about the support and trying to put pressure on the police. The UDM as well released a statement. When are we going to see just the rallying of resources on this case? And part of rallying resources and part of putting pressure on this SAPS is to also figure out what conversations are they having with the principal, because this child was in the care of that institution until she left. So you want to figure out if this thing may have happened there. How do they hire people? Do they actually check the sexual offences register? Huh? Especially people who work in preschools, in primary schools, where the most vulnerable our children are. What extra caution are you taking as a principal? What extra caution are you taking as an employer? This child shouldn't have gone through this. She was penetrated, assaulted, anally. She was penetrated and assaulted. The doctors say both. They checked her back, they checked her genitals. There was penetration in both. Who does that to a 7-year-old child? Oh, Vukani, you're calling us from Rosebank. Hi.
Hey, how's it, Clement?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, you just touched a very sensitive topic, man. I had to, yesterday, my wife and I had to talk to our 8-year-old daughter, advise her that, look, daddy is not supposed to be in the same bathroom as you. You're not allowed, no one's supposed to touch your private parts except mommy or auntie. If anybody touches you, scream. She's 8-year-old. So this thing that happened to Cwecwe just touched me as a father.
Yeah.
To see if this was my daughter, how would I feel? And is it too late for me to have that conversation with my daughter? And I need to have that conversation with her to say, even daddy is not supposed to touch your private parts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
hey, Vukan, we have to have those tough conversations with the kids. And it's so scary for the little kids who are so innocent, and because for them being bathed by the uncle or their brother is normal, they're so innocent like that. But we really have to tell them that this world is not as innocent as it presents, for their own protection. Anonymous on the WhatsApp line says, "Hi Clement, I shed a tear listening to you iterate the story. It really is sad, and if anything, the direction this principal has taken makes him look like he's hiding something. Mina Clement, I was molested as a child, probably 8 or 9 years old. I actually do not believe I have processed it, because I always push it to the back of my mind. But I do remember that the families had a meeting, and I remember distinctly. And as young as I was, the mother or grandmother, my memory is bleak here, but she was old and frail, the mother of the perpetrator, she begged my parents not to take it forward as he was a troubled person with a drinking problem. I am mad about this, and remember, she grew very fond of me after she loved me, and I was just so confused." That's a message there from Anonymous. You see what I'm talking about? There are cases where this thing happens, and we are told, no, this person, we've seen this. I saw a case about 2 years ago of a whole family, after their own child went and raped an older woman in a society. You see a case, right, where the family has conversations about it, because the matter actually was the person appeared in court, and the family was having conversations about how do we go and somehow pay some money to the victim, just so that they can withdraw a case. I remember being told that story, and I thought, how as a family are you okay with protecting someone? Do you love your child so much that you don't care about somebody else who's faced such pain? Because you can continue loving your child and protect and supporting them as they go through the legal system. But because you've got resources, you think you can go pay some money to the victim and say, let's wrap this up out of the court system. And your child is going to continue living out there, and other people are at risk because he's never been held accountable. What stops him from doing it again? Because, my family, I come from money, my family can shut it down and offer the victim any amount of money. We have failed our children as families. We've failed our children as societies. And we need to start doing better.
Good morning, Clement. I think that principal has something to hide. It may not necessarily be linked to the rape of this child, but when he says that he's worried that the police might misuse his DNA, that could probably indicate that the police already have DNA in their database, but they don't know that it's his. So I think he's worried that some other crimes that he may have committed before are going to be linked back to him. Daniel Mota from Savannah.
Good morning, Clement. I find it disgusting that that principal will not have the DNA test. I mean, to me, that says he's got something to hide. And as for for the AfriForum to take on this case, well, I suppose they're free to take any case they want to, but that they're not coming to give you some indication of why they're willing to take on this case. Really, really is worrying. And, well, I'm sorry, that's just unacceptable. A little girl of 7 being raped or sexually abused is horrific. And he should just go and have the DNA test if he is innocent. Lee Alberton.
Hello, 702 lenders. What happened to this young girl is tragic, and I think it's important for us to say her name. Her name is Cwecwe. Like we said, Uyinene, we need to put a name to it. Her name is Cwecwe. The principal needs to give the DNA sample. If you are not guilty, if the caretaker could give the sample and the second other person who I'm led to believe is the father could give a DNA sample, why can't the principal give a DNA sample? What is he hiding?
Hi, I'm Lewis Hamilton. Victory demands everything, but the journey is never solo. My team carves the way, data and innovation are my compass. This is how today's champions are made.
Drive your success and trade like a champion. CFI, a global leading broker now in South Africa. Access over 15,000 instruments, advanced trading tools, 24/7 support, and superior trading services. Visit cfi.trade today. CFI Financial is an authorized financial services provider.
CFI, empower yourself.
J. Mokotie's novel Life and Times of Michael K. arrives on stage at the Market Theatre. Experience this breathtaking production with a cast that includes Sandra Prinsloo, Andrew Buckland, and Fanny Swayis, alongside the Tony Award-winning Handspring Puppet Company. This riveting adaptation by Lara Foot follows the haunting story of a simple man who enjoys or journeys through a war-torn time to find closure. This is an unmissable theatre event. Tickets are available on web tickets, or visit markettheatre.co.za for more information.
Unlike other assets built on belief, gold is built on reality. Rare, enduring, and demanded globally, gold is a trusted asset for all. With gold rising 30% in the past year, it again proves to be the ultimate store of value. Buy gold with the market leaders at the Scoin Shop, online or in stores nationwide. T's and C's apply.
Let's face it, in this country, small business owners wear many hats, and they wear them brilliantly. That's why MTN and 702 wanted to bow hats to all the incredible SMEs of Gauteng for being such a valuable part of our communities and a vibrant force in SA's economy. At the 702 Small Business Awards, brought to you by MTN, because MTN is here to help grow their businesses and move them further. Go to primemediaplus.com now, enter your SME, or nominate a small business doing big things in the 702 Small Business Awards, brought to you by MTN. Today, we make moves. T's and C's and more on primemediaplus.com.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulu. EWN understands that the ANC and the DA are close to finding each other over the country's budget, and that a deal has been reached with smaller parties. This is ahead of tomorrow's Finance Portfolio Committee sitting, which is expected to present and adopt a report before Wednesday's votes on the 2025 fiscal policy framework. The ANC has been holding meetings with both its Government of National Unity parties and the opposition opposition. Despite Action SA laying down the gauntlet last week, EWN now understands an agreement has been reached that will see the Green Party supporting the ANC on the budget proposal. Action SA is likely to present an alternative to the contentious 0.5 percentage point VAT hike announced earlier this month by Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana. A 27-year-old man has been charged for the murder of 6 community patrollers in Soshanguve. The accused is set to appear in the Pretoria North Magistrates Court this morning. He was arrested after the patrollers at the Merimi informal settlement in Soshanguve were killed last week. Khomotso Modisa reports.
Last week, 2 men aged 27 and 50 made an appearance in the Pretoria North Magistrates Court. They'd not been charged for the murders of the community patrollers, but had been linked to the crimes. The state arrested them for the possession of unlicensed firearms and ammunition. Now, the younger of the men has officially been charged with murder. This is after he was taken through an identity parade. The man will make an appearance in the Pretoria North Magistrates Court this morning. Khomotso Modise, Eyewitness News.
The Gauteng government has been accused of turning a blind eye to the alleged misuse of funds set aside for the establishment of a drug rehabilitation center in Tembisa. In 2018 and 2019, during those financial years, the provincial government set aside 20 million rand for the planning phase of the facility, but more than 34 million has been spent. The contractor was given 14 million rand more because they needed more money to continue with the project. Social Development MEC Faith Mazibuko has told the provincial legislature that the funds were spent on quantity surveying, construction project management and town planning, but the DA's Kefilwe Mojapelo says no work was done.
They've basically spent 34 million rand on a contractor to plan from 2018 to 2025. Nothing has actually been erected, but 34 million rand has been spent. I think this is absolutely ridiculous. I cannot even begin to explain how this is just not value for money.
And Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Al-Khamenei has warned of a forceful retaliation if the country is attacked following a threat by US President Donald Trump. Al-Khamenei made the remarks during a speech on Eid, the holiday marking the end of the fasting month of Ramadan. In an interview on Saturday, Trump said Iran will be bombed if it does not reach a deal on its nuclear program. According to NBC News, Trump also threatened to punish Iran with what he calls secondary tariffs. Since taking office in January this year, Trump has reinstated his maximum pressure campaign on Iran. Under that policy, in his first term as president, Trump withdrew the U.S. from a landmark agreement on Iran's nuclear program in 2018 and reimposed biting sanctions on Tehran. Western countries, including the U.S., have long accused Iran of pursuing a nuclear weapon, which Tehran has denied, insisting the enrichment or its enrichment activities were only for peaceful purposes. Gold is trading at $3,122.74 an ounce. The rand is at 18.25 to the dollar, 23.66 to the pound, 19.77 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $73.51 a barrel.
On our roads, Midrand, we've got a vehicle that is on fire right at the Baklu interchange. Now, this is affecting the flow of traffic. 20-minute long delays on the N3 heading north from Alexander Township. In the Joburg CBD, queuing traffic still Main Reef Road, eastbound from Langlaagte until you get to Selby due to high traffic volumes, while in Pinoni, moderate pressure. Rangeview Road as you head towards Lancaster Road.
A partly cloudy day in store for Gauteng with scattered showers and thunder showers expected. The temperatures will peak at highs between 24 and 26 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour, the ANC and the DA are close to sealing a deal over the country's budget, and EWN now understands an agreement has been reached with smaller parties.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with Clement Manyathela
On 702.
Let's Walk the Talk, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app,
DSTV channel 856,
92.7 and 106 FM.
7 minutes after 10 o'clock. Dumelang, welcome to the second hour of the Clement Manyathela Show. Thank you for staying with us here on 702. And thank you for your thoughts, your reflections, and your comments on the 702 open line as we were discussing justice for Cwecwe, this alleged rape of the 7-year-old child whose family says a doctor confirmed it. The police are now investigating. And hopefully in the coming days, we'll hear clarity on whether the principal has cooperated, and we'll get some clarity on where the police investigation is, and also where this rape may have occurred, this alleged rape. Did it probably happen at school? Did it happen outside of school? Hopefully we'll get that clarity in the coming days. Remember, at 10:30, you don't want to miss this new series that we're starting at 10:30 about the afterlife. What do you believe about what happens after this life? I am so fascinated about just the concept of spirituality, the concept of our spirit and our souls and our bodies. I think we pay a lot of attention to our bodies. Yeah, that's why we have health and wellness. We focus on that, but the human experience is made up more than just a body. I at least believe that, and I wonder what your belief is. Do you believe it's just a body? I believe we're more than that. And I believe as much as we pay attention and want to explore more about our bodies, we should pay more attention and learn and explain more about our souls, about our spirits. How did we come to be? What happens to those? Because at least we know with our bodies, they rot, right? We get buried, our bodies get rotten. But what about our souls? What about our spirits? And that's a conversation we're going to be having over the next couple of weeks. We're going to be looking at what different beliefs say about the afterlife. I'm looking forward to that conversation. At 11 o'clock, we're going to do our Family Matters feature. Today, we'll be discussing healthy parental blame. There are many of us who don't want to healthily look at what our parents have done wrong. That doesn't mean you hate your parents or they're terrible people. It means they're human beings, and you've got the empathy to realize that actually my parent is not this angelic person who's beyond reproach. They can make mistakes. Maybe they've done things that were wrong towards me, things that have affected me in the wrong way. But there's a way that you can heal and move past that, because acknowledging it helps you also avoid repeating the same mistakes as you raise your own children. So we're going to be talking about healthy parental blame at 11 o'clock on our Family Matters feature.
You're with Clement Manyathela.
702.
Deal or no deal? That's really the question this morning as we discuss the Democratic Alliance and the African National Congress. They've been meeting to discuss what's going to happen on Wednesday. The ANC is desperate for support for its budget that was tabled, was it sometime last month? And the DA has said we can support the budget if 1, 2, 3, and 4 are considered by the ANC. The ANC thought that the DA's proposals or suggestions were ridiculous, so they started now speaking to other parties. They went and approached the EFF. They've gone and approached Action SA. Action SA said, nope, we're not getting involved. They went and contacted Musi Maimane. The reality, though, is, especially if they don't have the support of Action SA, it doesn't help speaking to the other smaller parties. It's just not going to pass. The numbers are not numbering. And now it looks like they've been forced back to the table with the Democratic Alliance. So what exactly does the DA want? What exactly is the ANC willing to concede on? Karabo Khakhau is the DA national spokesperson. And I want you to take your calls on this as well, by the way, on 011-883-0702. The WhatsApp line is 072-702-1702. Karabo Khakhau is the DA national spokesperson joining us now on the line. Karabo, thank you so much for making time for us. Good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. Thank you for having me, and good morning to your listeners.
So I want us to start off maybe with just the conversation you had as the federal executive in the Democratic Alliance. You were having this important meeting yesterday. The ANC was also having its NEC meeting. What have you resolved on as the federal executive in as far as what your approach to this budget process should be?
Well, Clement, we can't resolve on anything until the negotiation is concluded. So what happened last night was pretty much the FedEx being brought into the confidence of the background of the conversations that are happening. And obviously, given what the conclusion of the negotiation is, then FedEx will meet again either today or tomorrow to take a decision on whether we support the outcomes of the conclusions or not. That was pretty much what the FedEx meeting was about last night. And you would know that from the onset, the Democratic Alliance has communicated that the reason why we're in the GNU is to grow the economy and create jobs. And that is it. If you have a budget that grows the economy and creates jobs, a budget that seeks to bridge the inequality gap in this country, the Democratic Alliance will be happy. But the budget that Gorongwana tabled was not doing so. We did not approve of a VAT hike given the current cost of living crisis that the country has at 2%. We also did not approve of one at a 0.5%, particularly because, it would be easy to have a different conversation if we were saying you have a 0.5% increase, but that is directly directly linked to an economic agenda where the 0.5% wouldn't be felt at all. But the budget didn't do so. So you still had, in its initial phase, our ports, rails and harbors not being a point of priority there, where we know that them not being as active to their optimal capacity costs the country about a 5% GDP loss altogether, where if jobs are created there, then you'll have an economic boom that will settle the score of the cost of living. And it didn't do so. These are the part of the things that we wanted to talk about. Other things that we wanted to have a negotiation about, Clement, was how do we then attract greater investment into the country to make sure that we do get the translation of economic growth that we want. And one of the conversations then had to be about the expropriation act and the threat thereof of property rights in the country. Because although it is not true, Clement, that lands are being taken right now, where we're saying, Clement, we have identified this land right now, move, bye-bye, and there's no compensation. We know that the document in its wording allows for such to happen. And we're not interested in seeing if Cyril Ramaphosa is not president today, if somebody else is president, or if the Minister of Public Works is not Dean McPherson, if somebody else is there, how well that act could be rolled out. We want to make sure that no politician, irrespective of the political party that deploys them, has the power as strong as that of the apartheid government to be able to, in the name of public good, say, Karabo, Clement, you guys have a shopping center in Soweto or in Tabong and Valcom. You have multiple franchises there, but we as government have identified your shopping center to be resting on land that could easily be used for building either a clinic, a school, or a government office. And because that is something that could be easily classified as public good, we must vacate that land. So those are part of the conversations we were having.
Are you close to a deal? Because what we're hearing is that the DA and the ANC are somehow close to a deal. I think John Steenhuisen told News 24 that, and I quote here, "We've moved a lot closer to a deal in the past 24 hours."
We are still, the conversations are constructive. They're more constructive than they were on Friday, 1:30, when we all told each other where to get off. But they are more constructive now. As for whether we have signed the deal, no, we're not there yet. I can't confirm that. But it does seem for us to be moving in a constructive way. But also what's important for South Africa, let me say this, Clement. What's also important for South Africans to witness, to see here, that we are witnessing an ANC that is being pushed to accept the fact that they are a 39% political party without the power to bulldoze ideas and decisions as they did in the past. They are now being pushed in a position where they have to really put their tails between their legs and be humble to the understanding that they do not operate alone, that they can't bully the nation into adopting policies and a budget that is not in the best interest of South Africa.
When did they come back to you guys? Yeah, Karabo, because the ANC, I think, had decided, hey, let's try and engage the smaller parties now, because the DA is asking for things that we're not able to agree to now. Did they reach out to you guys on the Saturday or last week? What did they say while they were concurrently having these meetings with smaller parties?
So on Friday, they were not saying anything. That's when things broke down. And then Saturday night, they gave us a document, which we responded to yesterday, Sunday. And
a document that says what?
I can't tell you what the document says. We're not implemented because that would be the same as me leaking the negotiation conversation.
Okay, but is it a document that talks to what you guys have asked for in return to support the budget?
Yes, it is a document that,
Okay, are they willing to make some concessions though, without you telling us what those concessions are? Is the ANC based on the document they sent you on Friday? Are they willing to make concessions that they were refusing to make like a week ago?
Yeah, that is more. Okay. That is more the chat. There is a bit more construction there. I mean, as for willing, as a politician myself, I would tell you the term "willing" here is also a very tricky word to use because technically they're not. They're forced to have to deal and stomach the DA and their sobriety because in the past they didn't want to at all. They were not budgeting the day before they sent the letter, right? But because other kids in the political playground said, no, we don't want to play with you. Now they're like, oh, okay, since the DA has the nicest toy and they want to share them with us, okay, let's go play with the DA.
Yeah. So here's a question, Karabo, that I know a lot of the listeners have been thinking about, right? And it's about the 0.5 percentage point hike. As the DA, even when I spoke to you about, a couple of weeks ago, you said under no circumstances will the DA support this 0.5 percentage point hike. Now, you told South Africans that we are refusing to support this hike because we know that a 0.5 percentage hike cannot be justified. It's still going to hurt the poorest of the poor. But then in your negotiations, you are somehow negotiating that, we can support the budget with a 0.5 percentage point as long as there are certain things the ANC makes concessions about. And yes, I do understand that some of the things that you are trying to push for will somehow bring down the burden on the poorest of the poor. But the reality is the 0.5 percentage point on hike is going to have a huge impact on the poorest of the poor. So the question is, as the DA, are you using this as a negotiating tool? And are you still standing by your position that you will not support it no matter how it is justified? Or will you support it under other circumstances when some of the things you're asking for are going to be accepted by the ANC?
Clement, I'm going to be frank with you. This is probably the hardest decision the Democratic Alliance has had to make in the GNU, particularly because you are right. And according to us and where we stand as a political party, if we were alone in government, under no circumstance would we be having a conversation about VAT, about personal income tax, about tax in general, because that's not what we want and it's not what's in the best interest of South Africans. But unfortunately, in the same way that the ANC is a 39% political party, we too don't have a majority in government, right? So we have to deal with the cutthroat, not so nice, what do you call, I want to use a diplomatic term, and not so nice politics of politics, let's say that, right, of how we negotiate. So we say, if you are going to then want us to then be able to make sense of how you are going to rise, you're going to add to the cost of living of South Africans that is already unbearable, then you must provide proof that when South Africans go into the shopping center and they have to pay for basic living, that the pinch that they're going to feel is not going to be as painful as it would originally be. Because only if that is the case, then can we be able to have a conversation. If you can show us that it's going to be a temporary pinch or which is barely going to be felt, then perhaps, ideally, we shouldn't even be finding ourselves in that conversation.
But a pinch is a pinch, right? Whether it's going to be over the next 6 months, it's going to be South Africans right now, you know this, you've said this before, as we speak, they just simply can't afford that. Like, the economy just is not in their favor right now. So that's going to really affect a lot of them. So as the Democratic Alliance, if you truly care about the poor, why not then walk away? Are you willing to say, Instead of us then refusing and standing our ground here, and then let what happens, but we're not going to let South Africans be affected like that. Instead of saying that as the Democratic Alliance, because also you're a political party here, you're trying to find ways where you can win, but that's in return for what? A pain on the pockets of South Africans that you say you care about?
Clement, we're not far from each other. And that's why I was saying I'm being honest and vulnerable to the fact that this is a very difficult conversation to have, particularly because we don't have the 100% power to be making the decision. We have to negotiate with people who are not operating in good faith, people who are stubborn to a solution that we've given them that results to 0.2% hike. We've given that to the table, and they've refused to take in it, right? And so the painful consequence that we find ourselves in right now as the Democratic Alliance is having to choose between, we are now at a 0.5%. Could we make it less painful, or do we walk away? And if we walk away, Clement, what are the consequences? Are we going to then allow South Africans to experience a more painful reality of living under an ANC and EFF and all the disastrous lots of people that would plunge the country into an even further deeper crisis where investor confidence is going to be nowhere to be seen, where nobody's going to want to do business with us, with people who have shown themselves that in government, when they were given an opportunity, they've pretty much boshed and did not act in the best interest of South Africans. And that's what's at the table right now. And again, Clement, I want to remind you that we're not done. So perhaps we could find ourselves in a position where we don't have to talk about that altogether. But I can't tell you this right now because I'm not in the negotiating team. Ours is to be hopeful that whatever outcome comes to the table will be the most favorable for the country moving forward.
Just lastly, Karabo, give me 3 things that as the DA you are willing. So 3 things that you've told the ANC, if you accept these, we're going to support the 0.5% VAT hike. Well, this budget that has a 0.5% VAT hike.
So if you are able to share economic policy, and our sharing on economic policy is the decision thereof is based on the understanding that we have a proven track record, Clement, of being able to have the lowest unemployment rate in the country where we govern alone. So that is something that we have an absolute authority and understanding of, and we could be able to get right for South Africans, which is what would be able to balance in the equation of a VAT hike that is temporary. That is one.
What would that mean? What does it mean? Someone from the DA sits on in the Operation Vulindlela. What does that mean in practical terms?
Yes. That does mean that we do have a co-chairing of Operation Vulindlela.
Okay.
That is part of it, right? Because then we'll be able to steer the economy in the direction that we want.
Okay.
Again, still number 2, linked to our objective of economic growth and economic growth and job creation is the concessionings on our ports and rails, right? What we want is those concessionings without getting adding debt to the current fiscal framework from the World Bank to make sure that we increase our GDP growth, we increase our job creation targets, that way we're able to expand the economy. That is something that we will be able to work.
So practically speaking, on those ports and rails, so I want us to be as practical as possible so the listeners understand. What do you want? What exactly do you want?
Okay. So 2 things, right? So we have the World Bank and the concessions that they're able to give us more money to be able to operate them. That is one. When you give more money to operate them, it means that because they're not operational, when they're operational, they're people who are employed there, right? That means that we're able to use the Department of Environment, Fisheries, Forestry, the Department of Trade and Industry, the Department of Agriculture, and all small business and tourism. There's a whole lot of them that will be able to use those to make sure that we maximize our exports and maximize our production in those areas, which will then increase our GDP. When you have more jobs and when the GDP grows, you have a bigger economy, which then unlocks more jobs, right? Altogether, which balances then the question of inflation, which balances the question of the cost of living. That is one. Number 2, it then brings us back to the question of this decentralization of power, the devolution of power that we've been talking about. If you are able to give provinces the ability to be able to, on a more decentralized way deal with the businesses of the economies without being dependent on the national government alone. In the Western Cape alone, for example, we would be able to see more people being able to benefit from this. Then we will be able to have a record of successes that are higher, for example, in the Western Cape, that I can give you 100% confidence on, right?
Okay.
Because we've shown that we're able to do so. And this will work because you would know that even provinces like Gauteng, even Panyasa himself was complaining to say some of the economic hurdles that they have is the fact that they do not have power in their hands.
And then lastly, the Expropriation Act, quickly, what do you want? What do you want to change there?
The Expropriation Act, the issue of it being incumbent on you and I to seek the counsel of the courts, Clement, when we disagree with the evaluation of the state, should be scrapped altogether, because that doesn't make sense. I'm going to give you an example. You'd know that property evaluations are done by municipalities. I guess municipalities do evaluations by human beings. I guess so. If you have somebody who's corrupt in a municipality, which we know they exist and we've seen in the past, having to deal with a property value that is different from ours. When you and I disagree with the value that I'm supposed to get as a matter of compensation from the state, if we don't agree with the state, the fact that you and I must dig into our pockets to go fight the state in court does not make sense.
So it must be just and equitable, and there must not be nil compensation.
100%.
Got it. Karabo Khakhau, DA National Spokesperson, thank you for speaking to us. Tshidi Madia is the EWN Associate Editor joining us now on the line. Tshidi, thanks for also making time. So are we getting to a deal or no deal? From what Karabo is saying, the ANC seems to have humbled itself to go back and say, okay, let's talk again. And apparently they are agreeing to a lot of the demands by the DA now.
Good morning, Clement. I think the difficulty there is that you're dealing with an ANC with many schools of thought about what's the way forward.
Yeah.
So someone the DA will say to you, the people we are talking to are cool heads, and we believe we are finding each other. But there was a meeting that went awry on Friday. When those people went back to the ANC, the understanding was that the meeting that the DA had with particular individuals from the ANC wasn't a sanctioned meeting. So there was also that back and forth about who are they speaking to. That's very important. It's also important to recognize that of those who engineered this whole GNU, there are those who now believe that they're actually on the wrong path with the DA, that even if you reach a deal right now, it doesn't stop the next hurdle, the next fight, and that they feel the demands put on the table by the DA are actually laying the foundation of the battleground, that it's easier for the ANC to actually walk away. So what they believe is happening is it's postponing the inevitable if you reach a deal. But DA insiders said to me that they are finding one another. What's curious is that a deal has been struck elsewhere, Clement. I can tell you with some level of authority that a deal between the ANC and FamilyMatters is on the table. I don't think it's been signed as yet, but an agreement was made. They held meetings on Saturday and Sunday, and they are expected to back the budget, or with some tinkering, but will definitely back the budget. The view is that the ANC might be playing Action SA as insurance in case things don't go well with the DA, but I don't think Action SA is not alive to that. I think Action SA is very much alive to the fact that they could be used. I mean, Karabo spoke to you about dealing with a party that's not negotiating in good faith. I think to some degree, Action SA must feel the same way. But there are smaller parties that are willing to back the ANC, again, with some tinkering around the budget.
Yeah, and on what Karabo says they want, I mean, Operation Vulindlela, they want to co-chair that. I don't see that being a big issue, but Pots and rails, the devolution of powers, that's what the Western Cape has been fighting for, the DA for a while now. And also they would want the compensation, the compensation without compensation, the land policy. Yes, that one. Expropriation without compensation. Because the ANC basically would have to go and say, they would have to say, okay, we're taking away nil compensation. It's just going to be just and equitable. That takes the ANC, that reverses its very policy. Are they willing to concede to that?
So these are the things that the ANC must also recognize, the impact of walking back on particular decisions, especially those stemming from the sixth administration in this particular agreement. So there is that, where people are mindful that you can't tinker with even a BELA, even an NHI, even expropriation, because of the impact this will have on those that the ANC is aligned to and the support and its base as well. So there is that recognition. The issue of devolution of rail, in a way, there are some, again, there are many different schools of thought in the ANC. There's those who say, but this has been in the pipelines, this has been talked about. Give the DA what it wants. The DA wants time frames, give them time frames. As we speak now about OV, you're correct to say that that almost feels inconsequential, right, on paper. And what you're hearing, and this is where you see the ANC also thinking about what power sharing actually looks and feels like. You hear people going, that Asha Serapin won't be so bad at OV. So you go, that's interesting. Now you're willing to have the deputy minister, a DA member serving in OV. That's very interesting. So you can see the back and forth and the thoughts around what is ideal taking place in the ANC, the wheels turning, so to speak, Clement, to some degree. But again, I go back to different schools of thought are happening in the ANC. So we'll see which one prevails. Unfortunately, we have to wait for tomorrow to see how the finance committee plays itself out, and obviously Wednesday in that regard.
Yeah. Tshidi Madia, thank you so much for contextualizing it for us. Tshidi Madia is the EWN Associate Editor. Operation Vulundlela, they want to co-chair that sits in the presidency. They want the devolution of powers. Instead of nil compensation, they want just and equitable, which is probably a policy that's existed before in the ANC. That basically says to the ANC, you reverse your own policy. It's going to be so interesting to see which of these matters the ANC is willing to concede on, because they're desperate for votes. Wednesday is D-Day for budget. If Wednesday comes, they don't have the support, there are going to be consequences. Let's get the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. Sister, good morning.
Thanks, Clement. Good morning. EWN has learnt that the ANC and the DA are close to sealing a deal over the country's budget. It's also understood that an agreement has been reached with smaller parties. This is ahead of tomorrow's Finance Portfolio Committee sitting, which is expected to present and adopt a report before Wednesday's votes on the 2025 fiscal policy framework. President Cyril Ramaphosa says the establishment of a national water resource infrastructure agency is one of the biggest reforms in the sector to date. The president reacted in his weekly newsletter this morning. Ramaphosa says the new agency will be responsible for developing and managing national water infrastructure and will also source financing for similar projects. And Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Al-Khamenei has warned of a forceful retaliation if the country is attacked following a threat by US President Donald Trump. Al-Khamenei made the remarks during a speech on Eid, the holiday marking the end of the fasting month of Ramadan. In an interview on Saturday, Trump said Iran will be bombed if it does not reach a deal on its nuclear program. And those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 11 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Very good morning. We start in the city of Johannesburg. We had a fault fire on the N3 north at the Baklu interchange. There is now free-flowing traffic. 20-minute long delays. So it appears the incident has been neutralized, but the aftermath still remains in terms of time constraints. 20-minute delays from Marlborough Drive. Now in Sandton, we also have some stop-and-go traffic. Winnie Mandela Drive approaching Sloane Street due to traffic lights out. Randburg, Stratham Park, quite slow. Leaving Stratham Park as you head towards Parkville. Anticipate just about 5 to 10 minute long delays. Similar pressure in Hurlingham, Winnie Mandela Drive. Northbound as you head towards Kramerview. And then look out for some mild to moderate congestion in the southwestern townships. This is on the N1 heading south, passing through Devlin and Eldorado Park. Chris Hani Road, still seeing that stop-and-go traffic around Chris Hani Paragonat Hospital. And then 3rd Street in the western area, also seeing a bit of slow-moving traffic, so please drive with care. Your next traffic update will be in 29 minutes, or as it happens.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Most people already know that the smartest way to get through tolls is with a tag. With a tag, you don't need to carry cash or even use your credit card. You don't even have to stop or open a window. To drive smart, download the Sanral app to link your cards and manage top-up payments for your convenience. For more info, visit sunral.co.za. Tags are the way to go. Sunral, an agency of the Department of Transport.
To all newlyweds, marriage is a beautiful journey and life insurance is a way to protect it. Ensure your partner is protected if you can't provide any more. With Outsurance Life Insurance, a 29-year-old female could pay just 331 Rand a month for 2 million Rand life cover. With no medicals for qualifying clients, Outsurance Life offers quality life insurance that's quick, convenient and affordable. Get Outsurance Life with just one quick call. SMS live to 47578. That's live to 47578. Outsurance Life is a licensed insured and FSP. Limits apply. T's and C's online.
To walk the talk is to turn words into meaningful actions. And it's what we at 702 are committed to doing every day. We're also committed to following the rules set out by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission's Code of Conduct. To give you balanced programming, fair comment, and accurate news. But if we stumble along the way and you feel we're not living up to the code, let us know on comment@702.co.za. And if after that you're still not happy, you can direct your complaint in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission, PO Box 412365, Craig Hall 2024. For more, visit bccsa.co.za.
If you're balancing the books like a pro 1 minute and then running off for some last minute supplies the next, you're definitely a small business owner. MTN gets it. SME owners wear many hats brilliantly. That's why MTN in 702 want to celebrate all the incredible SMEs of Gauteng for being such a vibrant force in South Africa's economy with the 702 Small Business Awards brought to you by MTN, because MTN is here to help SMEs make the moves they need to grow. Visit primemediaplus.com now. Enter your SME or nominate an awesome small business and they could be a finalist in the 702 Small Business Awards brought to you by MTN. Today, we make moves. T's and C's and more on primemediaplus.com.
702.
The Clement Manyathela Show.
Let's walk the talk.
It's 22 minutes before 11 o'clock. We're starting a new series this morning that I'm absolutely interested and intrigued by, and we are going to be talking about the afterlife in this series. So over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be looking at what different beliefs say about the afterlife, right? What do you believe happens after this life? I want you to share your thoughts with us on 011-883-0702. That's the number to dial. You can send a WhatsApp as well on 072-702-1702. There are different beliefs about what happens after this. There are people who believe in eternal life. People talk about heaven and hell, whether or not those are literal or figurative. There are people who believe in reincarnation. There are people who believe in just a ceasing of existence. So once we die, there is no longer any existence. In fact, Dreamline on Twitter says, Clement, our souls and spirits exist so long as we are alive and believe that they exist. After life, they all cease to exist because the mind that believed of such existence is no more. So where are you on this one? Give us a call or send us a WhatsApp voice note. Today, we're going to start by looking at a particular belief system. We're going to look at the religion of Christianity, also seeing that the majority of people in this country are Christian. There are obviously different belief systems, even within the Christian religion, right, on what happens after life. The Catholics will believe differently, even though quite similar to other Christian subgroups on what happens after life. Maybe you come from, the so-called charismatic churches. They've got a specific way that they believe that that afterlife form takes. So we've invited Professor Boitumelo Senokoane, who is the Associate Professor in the Department of Philosophy, Practical and Systematic Theology at UNISA, to guide us through this conversation as we start by focusing on Christianity. Professor Senokoane, thank you so much for making time for us. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement, my brother, and to the listeners.
So this is quite an interesting chat because I do believe that we need to start paying more attention to what makes us human, because it's not only our bodily experiences, our physical body, but there's a soul, there's a spirit, and often we focus so much on nurturing the body, we focus so much on understanding the body or fixing the body, and not so much on the spirit or on even finding out more about the soul. Can you just help us understand just first what your understanding is of just the human experience in as far as the body, the spirit, and the soul is concerned? And we know what happens to the body when we die. what do you think, as someone who studies these things, happens when we are no more? What happens to our spirit and our soul?
Look, my personal views will, of course, be informed by my own upbringing, my own experience about life in general, but faith in particular. I'm emphasizing my personal experience because as a human being, when you are born, first you are born into a particular family, and that family will generally belong to a particular community, society, and they will be affiliated to a particular denominational belief. Then those things influences you on who you are, what you become. But for others in later years, by interacting with different cultures, races, traditions, then they become influenced to a different direction, or you find yourself in a space of amalgamated different types of religions or faith groups. So it is what it is. And if you were to ask my personal belief, I would say, yes, it is personal, but influenced by my upbringing. And as such, then I find myself to have been influenced by a Christian religion, Christian faith, and not only in its general understanding. I come from a Reformed Calvinist background, and I'm a member of the United Reformed Church in Southern Africa. So that's what informed my faith. In fact, recently, then one finds himself to be an African Reformed believer, in a sense that you then have to acknowledge that before you become baptized as a Christian, you come from a family which is African, that had its own understanding on how things should happen, and a fusion of the two therefore happens, whether accidentally or deliberately, so it's a different issue. So I believe in life after death, whether as a Christian or whether as an African Christian, because even in the African traditional religion, there is that belief of life after death. So I do believe in life after death.
Yeah, and we will be looking at African spirituality as well, and what that belief is. So from a Christian point of view then, because I often, you hear conversations about heaven and hell. Are those literal? Are those figurative? Because also when you look at the Catholic Church as well, they believe in what they call purgatory as well. Where are the subsections of Christianity in as far as what that heaven and what that hell looks like? Is there even anything you can do to make it into one of those places? And are they figurative or are they real places?
Look, from where I'm sitting, these are real places. Call it places, or for a better way, you can call it whatever you want to call it. But it's a life experiences that some of us believe that it exists. And it exists in the life beyond the life that we find ourselves in. And in fact, heaven and heaven, if I had to bring the two together, that's the place where you find, the soul resides or get its rewards and punishment after death. Because this does not only come from the originally as a Christian thinking. It moves as early as Judaism, Jewish faith is concerned, then later translated into the experience of early Christians, then to our life today. So the understanding is that when the soul departs from the body, it stands before heavenly court to give for judgment purposes, but also for accounting purposes, for what one could have done or not done on earth as per the expectation of our Creator. So that's the basic understanding of what it means to have life beyond the life what you find yourself and what it means to be having heaven and earth. But beyond that explanation, there is also a deliberate explanation by Black theologians to say you should not only be promised life after death or to neglect your immediate challenges or life experiences and postpone them to future experiences, because that's when then once that happens, exploitation directly or indirectly happens. For an example, you know, there is this song that sings Shiya lo mhlaba nento zayo, meaning you must leave earth and everything on it, forgetting the saying that everything on earth belongs to God. Therefore, we should naturally be able to enjoy everything on earth, both as rich and poor, moving beyond the class connotations and separations, and ensuring that we benefit out of the gifts of life that God has given to us. So I'm saying that also as a precaution, as a case, so that we should not find ourselves tomorrow saying, but what's then the point? Let's wait for a new heaven and earth for us to rejoice, and forget that God created us to benefit out of the immediate life, which the scripture tells us that heaven is at hand.
What about purgatory? Because the Catholic Church teaches that after death there is a state of purgatory, which is a place where some people who have sinned are somehow purified in a quote-unquote cleansing fire, after which they are accepted into heaven. And again, obviously, there are different subsections of Christianity, different Christians who believe in different traditions or different beliefs as well, but mostly there are commonalities there. Is this something that is, still exists as a belief, this concept of purgatory?
Look, it is there, but like you are saying yourself, it differs from one Christian denomination to another, because each and every denomination will have its own doctrine that determines the outcome or the outlook of that particular faith. And you are correct to say the Catholics will have that view, but it does not necessarily translate into the sameness in other different doctrines within the Christian families. And of course, others, the belief will be that once you do not repent before death, therefore you should not expect anything beyond that. It's a done deal. You should wait for judgment. Therefore, consequences will naturally follow beyond that. But like others will say, even beyond that, there's still that opportunity for you to repent and to be forgiven. So it depends from which doctrine are you affiliated to.
Okay. It's 10 minutes now before 11 o'clock. 011-883-0702. What are your thoughts? Maybe you are a Christian, maybe you're not. What do you believe about life after death? What happens after this life experience? I know that some people find these kind of conversations uncomfortable, but I think we learning more has a benefit for us. If really a human experience is more than just this bodily experience, we need to know. We need to be curious about what else is there. We need to be. I'm curious about what different religions or different belief systems think of what happens after death, because everybody or somehow has an explanation of why they believe in a particular way. So let me know your thoughts of what you think happens afterwards. Let me know your thoughts. Maybe you haven't thought that far and you think, not necessary for me as long as I'm in this moment, I'm experiencing life like this. Or maybe you've got questions. 011-883-0702. WhatsApp's on 0727021702.
Hollywood Bets. We're making life even more exciting by bringing you all the furious fun and fantastic fortunes of March Mania from Pragmatic Live Casino. Enter the dazzling worlds of roulette, blackjack, baccarat, and more, and stand a chance to win a share of 200,000 Rand. Simply bet 50 Rand or more on any Pragmatic Live Casino game between 3 and 30 March, and you could be in line for some big wins. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. Hollywood Bets supports responsible gambling. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counselling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp HELP to 076 675 0710.
Has your water and electricity bill gone up this year? That does not mean you have to pay more for your car insurance too. Get a quote, and if OUTsurance can beat your car insurance premium, ask them for 500 Rand in cash and make that 1,500 Rand if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Get monthly savings on your car insurance or cash in your pocket. SMS out to 45142. That's out to 45142. With OUTsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Take notes, sketch ideas, and sign documents on the go when you get the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6 from Vodacom, Mzansi's fastest 5G network. Get it for only 1,299 Rand per month over 36 months on our 4.8 gig Redcore plan. Enhance your deal when you trade in and save. Available in-store and online. T's and C's apply. Further together. Vodacom.
For 60 years, Altron has led the way using technology to tackle South Africa's biggest challenges.
Catch 702 in conversation with Werner Kaap on 702 Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa this Wednesday
as we discuss Altron's legacy intertwined with Joburg's history and the company's vision for the city.
Find out how Altron is honoring the business leaders of the past 60 years who built Johannesburg while championing and partnering with the current leaders
to rebuild Jozi over the next 60 years.
That's 702 Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa in conversation with Altron.
This Wednesday, only on 702.
702.
The Clement Manyathela Show.
Let's walk the talk.
7 minutes before 11 o'clock. Let's go to your WhatsApps first on 072 702 1702.
Morning, Clement. This topic has always been the subject of my fascination ever since I started to question life and its, intricate and deeper meaning. And, for me, scientifically, I'm going to approach it from that angle. Obviously, I do know personally, religiously, let me start from there, that there is something bigger than us. With the way life is, with the intelligence of man, with what we've done with Earth, I know definitely when we depart, there's something that lies beyond this. What is it? I don't know. I just feel like life is like, when you play a game, you unlock certain levels. After when you finish a particular levels, I feel like life on Earth is a level that we unlock only in death. Do we move to the other level? But scientifically, obviously, the universe is so much more complex. It's crazy. Prince in Bedfordview.
Yeah, Prince, I've been thinking about that too. I've been thinking about the different realms that we go through. When you are still unborn, you're in your mother's womb. That's a different life experience there for those 9 months. That may probably feel like 80 years or 60 years or whatever. For that child that's growing up in there, that's a different realm. And then they probably, for them, that's their death of that realm ends and they get born into this world, into this earth. And then they get out of their mother's wombs, they're crying. They are now experiencing this realm. Now, at the end of this realm, what exists? What do we go into? And for some reason, I'm still also negotiating this even with myself. I feel like there is something that you pop into on the other side, but this experience then ceases to exist. Let me. There's a question here, Professor Senokoane, about reincarnation and whether Christians believe in reincarnation.
Look, the explanation in as far as Christianity is concerned is that you are then, perhaps let me explain it saying this. The expectation of resurrection of the dead, of course, it's found first in different biblical scriptures.
Mm-hmm.
And this is about personal continuation of life after death. And in the Nicene Creed, then it is characterized as eternal life. But what you understand as eternal life, it doesn't mean is the antithesis of, or the antithesis is not earthly life, but eternal death. That is the antithesis.
Okay.
But having to talk about the resurrection of the physical as per the expectation. But it doesn't mean that it becomes the normal life that one would have known before. It becomes a completely different life, because the expectation of resurrection is that one is resurrected to completeness as per the promise of creation, but one is also born into the reality of righteousness, because that's how God, if you read, for an example, the book of Genesis, life was complete, but life was corrupted. Therefore, the intention is that God rebuilds life to its original purpose of righteousness, completeness, where everything plays out as per the plan of God.
John,
and the plan of God supersedes what we see.
Okay, John, you are in Davidton. Good morning.
Yes, Clement. Listen, Clement, during COVID, I had COVID. I was in a coma for 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
Over and above my religious belief, but what I experienced, it's what some will call near-death experience or death experience. So it's like crossover. What I experienced the other side, it's nothing different from what the Bible says. I didn't enter the place of so much what I will call judgment, but I was in a place where there is so much peace. There's so much tranquility and good people and good atmosphere. And when I returned to life, my doctor said, we doctors sometimes think we know everything. But I don't know how you survive. You are my miracle patient. I was in the hospital for 7 months. From there, I went to a rehabilitation center in the Eastland, if you know Rhinefield. When I experienced this thing came to me to say, the reason I returned to life is to share this experience with people who can believe me, and I shouldn't keep quiet. And when I went back to the doctor again, he said, I'm not going to live. My lungs collapsed and all these other things. I was working for the government. I had to take what is called pill. It's a long leaf. But
got it, John. Let me stop you there. I'm gonna take, because I'm late for the news and a break. I'm gonna take that after the news. We'll finish off with your call, and then just get Professor Senokoane to respond as well before we wrap up this chat.
While we at Decofern Furniture love traveling the world, Guten Tag,
Bonjour, Ni hao, Selamat siang,
to find you the best value furniture, there really is no place like home.
How's it? Marlo. Unjani?
To celebrate the best country in the world, Decofern Furniture is offering up to 35% off locally made furniture, plus price drops on already amazing specials. In-store now or online at decofernsa.co.za.
Elevate your flying experience with Lift Premium. Enjoy even more space, comfort, and convenience with priority boarding, extra baggage allowance, and complimentary lounge access. Visit lift.co.za today.
In business, a rand saved is a rand earned, and almost 100,000 businesses trust OUTsurance.
I'm in tourism. I'm running a guest house here. When I switched over to OUTsurance, it was very simple and convenient. I used the savings to subsidize my solar installations. Switching to OUTsurance was one of the best decisions I made insurance-wise, yes.
For your business insurance, contact OUTsurance to see how much your business could save. SMS quote to 43503 for immediate cover, or visit outsurance.co.za today. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
On the 3rd of April, the Gauteng Investment Conference brings together global investors, industry leaders and game changers to unlock the province's trillion-rand potential, from green energy to smart tech. This is where bold ideas turn into real investment opportunities. So tune into 702 Drive with John Pellman this Tuesday from 3 p.m. as he'll be in conversation with the Gauteng Development Agency. Be a part of the future. Visit gic.ggda.co.za and pledge your investment today. Growing Gauteng together.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulu. EWN has learnt that the ANC and the DA are close to sealing a deal over the country's budget. It's also understood that an agreement has been reached with smaller parties. This is ahead of tomorrow's Finance Portfolio Committee sitting, which is expected to present and adopt a report before Wednesday's vote in Parliament on the 2025 fiscal policy framework. The ANC has been holding meetings with both its Government of National Unity partners and opposition parties. Tshidi Madia takes a look.
Despite Action SA laying down the gauntlet last week, EWN understands an agreement has been reached that will see the Green Party supporting the ANC on the budget proposal. Action SA is likely to present an alternative to the contentious 0.5 percentage point VAT hike announced earlier this week by Finance Minister Enoch Gondongwana. However, EWN also understands the DA isn't fazed by this, believing that the ANC is only using Action SA as insurance in case talks between the two major parties collapse. Insiders claim a deal is close, with the ANC and DA left with minor differences to iron out. Parliament votes on the 2025 budget on Wednesday. Tshidi Madia, Eyewitness News.
President Cyril Ramaphosa says the establishment of a national water resource infrastructure agency is one of the biggest reforms in the sector so far. The president reacted in his weekly newsletter this morning. Ramaphosa says the new agency will be responsible for developing and managing national water infrastructure and will also source financing for similar projects. Babalo Ndenze has more.
In his latest newsletter, President Ramaphosa says the Government of National Unity has prioritized achieving a secure and reliable water supply for communities and also support economic growth. Ramaphosa says delegates at the Water Indaba were tasked with developing a sustainable turnaround plan to keep the momentum of the structural reform process started under the 6th administration, which identified major challenges in the sector. He says these reforms include reinstating the drop water quality monitoring system, significantly improving the turnaround time for processing water use license applications, and a raw water pricing strategy. Ramaphosa says the establishment of a national water resource infrastructure agency will be part of these changes and is one of the most significant reforms in the sector. Babalo Ndenze, Eyewitness News.
The increase of all social grants, excluding the social relief of distress grants, will come into effect tomorrow. Finance Minister Enoch Gondongwana made the announcement of the hikes during the budget speech earlier this month. SASSA spokesperson Paseka Letsatsi has assured beneficiaries that they will still access their grant payments post the May deadline to migrate to the new Postbank Black Cards.
Also want to appeal to our beneficiaries that because there has been an extension, they must not relax and wait for the last minute to rush again to the sites to do the card swap, because obviously we're trying to make sure that we avoid what happened in terms of blocking the system, but secondly having those snake queues. We are appealing to them again.
And Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Al-Khamenei has warned of a forceful retaliation if the country is attacked following a threat by US President Donald Trump. Al-Khamenei made the remarks during a speech on Eid, the holiday marking the end of the fasting month of Ramadan. In an interview on Saturday, Trump said Iran will be bombed if it does not reach a deal on its nuclear program. According to NBC News, Trump also threatened to punish Iran with what he calls secondary tariffs. Since taking office in January, Trump has reinstated his maximum pressure campaign on Iran. Under that policy, in his first term as president, Trump withdrew the US from a landmark agreement on Iran's nuclear program in 2018 and reimposed biting sanctions on Tehran. Western countries, including the US, have long accused Iran of pursuing a nuclear weapon, which Tehran has denied, insisting its enrichment activities were only for peaceful purposes. Gold is trading at $3,122.74 an ounce. The rand is at 18.25 to the dollar, 23.66 to the pound, 19.77 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $73.51 a barrel.
In the capital, there's slow-moving traffic on Lavender Road. This is in Bon Akert, heading north. City of Johannesburg, still seeing some heavy pressure. N3 north from Alexander Township all the way to the Beclew interchange. Budget an extra 20 minutes and some queuing traffic in Bosmont and Albertina Sisulu Road. This is just near Commando Road. Please drive with care.
A partly cloudy day in store for Gauteng with scattered showers and thunder showers expected today. The temperatures will peak at highs between 24 and 26 degrees. The top story this hour, EWN has learnt that the ANC and the DA have sealed a deal over the country's budget.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
Let's walk the talk. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7 and 106 FM.
8 minutes after 11 o'clock. Dumelang, welcome to the third and final hour of the Clement Manyathela Show. But before we get into our Family Matters feature this morning, I want us to conclude this conversation we started in the previous half hour looking at the afterlife. It's part of a series that we're starting. So over the next couple of weeks, every Monday at 10:30, we'll be looking at what different beliefs say about the afterlife. I think we need to be more curious and learn about even what other belief systems say about what happens after we die. As curious and as caring as we are to our bodies as part of our human experience, we should also care about our spirits. We should care about our souls, because that's what makes us human, right? We got a call from John in Davidton, who was sharing an experience of how he was in a coma for 2 weeks and how he believes in life after death. I've asked John to just stay on the line until after the news, so I can just let him continue saying his story before we move on. So John, thank you so much for staying with us. So you had explained that you were there in a coma for 2 weeks and you experienced so much tranquility and peace. And the question I wanted to ask you is, what was that your soul? Do you believe that was your experience? I mean, your spirit experiencing that? Or did you see was it a vision? Did it come in a sort of a vision? Or while you were in a coma, for some reason, there was some peace and tranquility that you experienced? It's not like you saw faces, you saw where you were, but you just experienced a lot of peace.
Yes, Clement. Just to be precise, I even saw my body. I was outside of my body, seeing doctors working on my body, which when I saw my body was in a state of disrepair. It couldn't be resuscitated. Then actually I cannot adequately, for this short period, explain what actually transpired the whole. But what I can say is that experience made me to strongly believe that there's life after death. Like, you are outside of your body. You see what is happening, but the peace that is on the other side, it's really real.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the shortest way I can describe it, because I could see my body being wet. When I came back from rehabilitation center, when I went to the doctor actually, I don't want to mention the name of the doctor, but actually they did not believe that is me. When I went back to the department, people told me so many stories that they never believed that. Many of my colleagues, I was a headmaster, many of my colleagues, during COVID, many have passed on.
Yeah, so they couldn't believe that you were able to survive that. We got it. Thank you so much, John, for sharing that experience with us. Here's some of the WhatsApp voice notes that have come through.
Hi, Clement. So in my Christian denomination, we believe that whenever we die, we either go to heaven or hell, depending on your right standing with God. And for you to be right standing with God, it has to be through Christ, where you become born again. And to be born again is to accept you are born a sinner and confess your sins and ask God to accept you as his child in Christ Jesus. Then continuously reading the Bible texts to keep yourself in the way of God, and in an event whereby you are going to pass, you'll do so by having been born again. It comes from the book of John, which says, "Verily, verily, I say, without being born again, you won't see the kingdom of heaven." This is Brian from Centurion.
Good morning, Clement. I was just listening to John's testimony regarding him being in a coma during COVID. I can concur and I can attest to the same. When I was in ICU and when I was now moving to the medical ward, doctor said, I remember it was Netcare Pine Heaven. Dr. Varihalva said to me, it's a miracle what happened to you. And when I was lying also in a coma, there was a time I even told my wife and my parents of me being in a place where I felt at peace. The only thing that I prayed for were my children, not for God not to take me while my kids are still young. But it was definitely a place of peace where I was, with no worries, but a different conversation. But thank you so much for this topic today.
Yeah, thank you so much for your inputs. There are some messages that have come through here that I think are important to just read before we wrap up this chat. Chad says, Clement, I'd imagine death to be less like death and more like the way we all experience a different dimension inside of our subconscious mind. What happens there takes place outside the third physical dimension. And I would imagine death or the afterlife to be a lot like that. Another one says, Clement, so I just lost my father. When he was alive, he used to talk about his own father's spirit as a guiding spirit. So I feel like because he believed in it, he would, if at all possible, be a guiding spirit for his children. I feel like God created a spirit so carefully that it can't just die when the body runs out of steam. The body is only a carrier of that spirit that lives in a new realm, I feel. And then somebody else says, Clement, I believe that heaven and hell is on earth. There is no life after death. The soul leaves the body and nothing happens afterwards. And then somebody else says, Clement, after the, about this topic of life after death, I have done my own deep research. I prayed about it and also had a divine encounter about it. My conclusion with scripture references and cultural references is that there is life after death, although there are several stages, including crossover. One dies and the spirit wanders around until they cross over, but there are many people dead and not yet who have not yet crossed over. Through dreams, I knew about the crossover of my parents who died in different years. My father died first, but my mother was the first to cross over, even though she died 3 years after my father died. That's Marumo there on that message. Let me read the last one here. Says, Clement, a fabulous topic. I'm looking forward to following it going forward. As a human race, we all are so desperately need to do soul searching at this important time on our beloved planet Earth. That's Fiona there. Thank you so much for your messages. Professor Senokoane, just to give you just your last words here, having heard what the listeners said, having heard the calls as well.
Look, I think the 3 quick points that one will want to make is that first and foremost, one has to understand that in the fundamentals of Judaism as the basis of Christianity, especially in as far as eschatology is concerned, is that, for example, life does not itself begin with birth. nor does it end with death. The understanding is that there's life beyond or before birth, and there's life also beyond death. That's what, in general, what is understood by in as far as the Judaism as a faith is concerned. But we also need to understand that there are different views. Like I said, when you do your own opening within the belief itself, even Judaism. For an example, the Sadducees, as one grouping, believe that there is no resurrection, there is no angel, there is no spirit. But the other grouping, known as the Pharisees, believed the opposite, that there's resurrection, angel, and spirit. And we find that even in the current groupings or different denominations, doctrines, the understandings of different interpretation continues to this day.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is that, each and everyone will then execute as per their own interpretation, either of the Bible itself, biblical scriptures, or the Tanakh in the Hebrew sense.
Professor Boitumelo Senokoane, thank you so much for joining us. He's an associate professor in the Department of Philosophy, Practical and Systematic Theology at UNISA. So we've heard from a Christian point of view what they believe is, and as far as life after death is concerned. Next week we'll look at a different belief system, and we're not just going to focus on religions here. We're going to focus on even of belief systems outside of religion, right? What does science say? Like, let's be curious about this life experience. Let's be curious about what makes or forms part of this life that we live and forms part of our humanity. And that's really the purpose of having this series. So I'm looking forward to more chats about this over the next couple of weeks. It's 18 minutes now after 11 o'clock.
7:02.
Family Matters.
So on our Family Matters feature this morning, I want us to have a conversation about healthy parental blame, right? There is a developmental shift in how we view our parents. When we are still young children, we consider our parents as godlike. They've got power, they are protectors, they could never do wrong. As teenagers, we are now creating our separate identities. We are often acutely aware of our parents' failings. And then the more we reach adulthood, we have a more balanced view, ideally. Balanced view of our parents. We're seeing their strengths, we're seeing their weaknesses as well. We've got a different perspective, and even, with tenderness, their approach sort of changes. So I want us to talk about how we can be okay with seeing our parents' weaknesses, especially as adults. Because some of us still see our parents as godlike or as angelic creatures that are on a pedestal, that are not capable of doing wrong, or they're not capable of having done us wrong. And by do you wrong doesn't mean your parent intentionally just wanted to hurt you. It could very well be that your parent took a decision that wasn't in your best interest, that the way your parents disciplined you was not okay. Some people have already shared experiences of how they were beaten up by their parents, and that has created a trauma of sorts. That is a possibility. Someone sent us a message also earlier on and said, "Hi, Clement. For a long time, I blamed my mother for not divorcing my dad sooner. I love the both of them dearly, but I just don't understand why my mom's decision for staying in that horrible marriage for us as kids was. But I now understand because she was in love with my dad." So some people feel like because your mom stayed or your dad stayed in that marriage, you maybe was assaulted sexually, or maybe there was physical assault, or there was emotional abuse, and you end up thinking, but that wasn't in my best interest. And it's okay for us as children or as adults to reflect on that and say, that decision my mom made or my dad made didn't work for me. They were selfish in that moment. It doesn't mean they love us less. So how do we start rationalizing and making normal healthy reflections about the actions of our parents without, of course, falling into victimhood, because that then hinders our ability to heal and to take control of our lives. And I think as we mature, part of this conversation is to make us realize that our parents are also just flawed because they are human beings. And it's okay to realize that and start that journey of healing, and start maybe the journey of finding even healing with your parent, finding forgiveness, having a conversation about things that have been done that rubbed you off the wrong way. Kefilwe Mojapelo is a psychosocial wellbeing practitioner and social worker who's going to guide us through this conversation. But I would like you to share your experiences as well. You can give us a call or send us a WhatsApp voice note. Kefilwe, thank you so much for making time for us for this important conversation. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement, and good morning to the listeners. And yeah, man, I missed you. It's been a while, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been a while. Thank you. Great to chat to you again. The reason we're having this chat, Kefilwe, is I've told a story before to the listeners. And if maybe you're listening to us now, you didn't hear the story. I wanted us to have this chat because I realized something during my own therapy sessions about a couple of months ago when we were having a chat with my therapist, and then she mentioned something that I had mentioned, right, in my childhood. And then she says to me, but your mom was wrong to do that. And I remember thinking, no, of course not. She wasn't. She was my mother. Of course, she knew what was best for me. That was best for me in that moment. And then she said, no. It doesn't mean your mother doesn't love you. And maybe it's because your mother, when you did something wrong, didn't talk to you for 2 days, or they beat you up, whatever the case may be for you. It means that's what they thought was good to do in the moment, but it doesn't make it right for you. And that's when I realized in that moment that, oh my goodness, I don't have a good relationship with healthy blaming. I don't have a good relationship with honest reflections about whether it's my mom or my dad's experience as a parent to me. Because I've put them on this pedestal, anything else that someone tells me that didn't work for you, that puts them somehow at a blame, I discard it. And I realized in that moment that's not healthy, which is why I thought we should have a conversation like this so we learn more about our parents as human beings. So that's where I want us to start. Do you, from your experience as well as a psychosocial well-being practitioner, as a social worker, do you get a sense that we are willing to be honest, many of us, about our parents and their actions towards us, these parents that we've put on a pedestal?
Yeah, that's a beautiful topic. And before I start answering it, let me just go through my purpose. For those who don't know, it's to nurture relationships, build functional families, as well as promote psychosocial well-being and restoration. And straight to the answer. So I feel like actually we don't have a healthy relationship with and how to internalize the blame. And perhaps I don't like the word blame. Perhaps we can say maybe blame and resolve, or a reflections, or the word that I love is conscious parenting, or 3 words that you're just going to hear throughout the conversation is being conscious, being deliberate, and being intentional. So the 3 musketeers in my practice, I use them a lot, because the minute we speak about consciousness or awareness around how we live and how we are parented, or how our parents parent us, or how we parent as parents, it conscientizes us to say, am I doing the right way? And you also now are able to open up such conversations with your kids to say, healthy so, and in that way, imagine what kind of environment you are creating within your home and relationship between you and your kids. You are not just coming as this authoritarian or this authority, which you still hold as a parent, but you are coming as a human being, still with faults, who can also learn from their kids how to do better. So I love conscious parenting, and I have a program actually on conscious parenting, but not just for parents, but for kids as well, so that they can also know how to be parented, if there's such a word, because you can parent, but is the whoever that you are parenting, are they able to be parented? Hence, I'm saying for lack of a better word. So we do that in so conscious parenting informs me that. So I started with the parents first, and I realized this is not working. Let's also do with the kids, so that because there's a relational exchange between these two. So in that way, then we can develop relational intelligence from how we are parenting and how the people that we are parenting are perceiving it or how they are receiving it. And in that way, we can then build effective parenting, constituting conscious parenting in that beautiful way.
Yeah. So I want us to differentiate between also two things here, because there are children or adults now who are like, okay, my parent did 1, 2, 3, and that was clearly unacceptable to me. It affected me in a particular way. You know, there are people that have experienced extreme things, like let's say sexual violence or terrible physical violence on the hands of their parents, and they see that as my mom was toxic or my dad was toxic or was abusive, right? There are sometimes even children or adults who can see that and be clear about it. But there's another side here of children or adults now who can never see any wrong in the eyes of their parents. So their parents are just these angelic human beings who, like, even the things that they've done that are wrong, the children find a way to somehow justify it. So the question then is, to people who are listening to us and they now can go back to their childhood and they see certain things that maybe one of their parents did or their dad or their mom did that was wrong, but at the time, for the longest time, they've always found ways to justify it, right? Or they've always thought, yeah, but my mom was a single mom. I understand why my mom acted in that way, even though it didn't work for me. Or, yeah, but my dad didn't have anybody in his life or didn't have a job, so I understand what they did this. So we find ways to justify these things. How do we heal from that? Like, is it best to talk to them, our parents, and make them aware of what happened that rubbed us off the wrong way? Is it best to just deal with it through therapy and move on? What's the best way to deal with it? Because I do think that at some point you are going to get triggered. At some point you are going to respond differently to certain things. And because you've not acknowledged what's happened, you're not able to fix the situation and start responding better to certain scenarios in life.
Exactly. So hence I really advocate for openness and conscious parenting, and consciously, so in all the aspects, even as a child. When I'm saying parenting, I hope you take it that it's in two ways. So just on that, let's look at the three things. Who is blaming? What are they blaming for the parents for, and how are they doing it? So I see it's 29 minutes, quickly gonna go to the news. So what happens normally is, in our family preservation programs such as conscious parenting, I advocate that we have family meetings. We sit around the table and address issues. So even in my family, that's what we do at home with my sisters and my brothers. We sit effectively to say, who is doing what? We don't like what's happening in your life. Mom, you are causing disharmony in this family in this way, the way you are doing things. So it's actually we are building each other up for the effectiveness of the whole family. So I feel like in that way, then we are open, and it allows to say, okay, Mom, we can critique a person and reflect on whatever that's going wrong in the family, so that they do not create other generational curses and pathologies that later on makes it difficult to even go back and look at where we started or where the problem started.
Yeah. Okay, that takes us to 11:30 now. We're going to get the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. I see messages from a lot of you that are saying this topic is hitting home. Just share your thoughts with us. What is hitting home about this conversation? Are you realizing certain things that were done that have affected you now as an adult? And you're realizing that that was wrong for my mom to do that, or it was wrong for my dad to do that. And again, that doesn't mean your parents are terrible people, and that doesn't mean you have to hate them or relationship changes. No, it means you're acknowledging certain things that have affected your attachment styles, that have affected how you respond to conflict, that have affected how you love. And you're acknowledging that there's a link here between this personality and this character and what happened to me when I was a child. How are you rationalizing that? How are you beginning to heal and to deal with what's happened and move forward? Give us a call or send a WhatsApp voice note. I'll start with that after the headlines. And Bali, good morning.
Thanks, Clement. A very good morning. EWN has learned that the ANC and DA are close to sealing a deal over the country's budget. It's also understood that the agreement has been reached with smaller political parties. This is ahead of tomorrow's Finance Portfolio Committee sitting, which is expected to present and adopt a report. President Cyril Ramaphosa says the establishment of a national water resource infrastructure agency is one of the biggest reforms in the sector to date. The president reacted in a weekly newsletter this morning. Ramaphosa says the new agency will be responsible for developing and managing national water infrastructures. And e-hailing drivers in the city of Cape Town are voicing their concerns over difficulties in obtaining operating licenses. By law, drivers found on the road without an operating license risk having their vehicles impounded. Those are the headlines. This EWN and more at midday or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
We'll start with traffic lights out. Edenvale, Modderfontein Road and Van Riebeeck Avenue, Old Pretoria Road and Olifantsfontein in Midrand, North Riding at CR Swart and Malibongwe Drive. Similar issues are persisting in Rand Park Ridge at the N1 in both directions at Beyersnodere Drive as well as Malibongwe and Mahogany. Similar issues also persisting in the city of Tshwane, slowing you down. This is in Vanderboom South, Paul Kruger and Link, Gordon Road and Woodlands Drive in Queenswood, as well as Centurion at Hendrik Verwoerd Drive and Magmatite. No pointsmen or pointswomen until 3 p.m. The responsibility falls on you to treat those and other affected intersections. As for your stops, remember to keep a safe following distance, and if there's anything else, remember to SMS on 31702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Let's face it, in this country, small business owners wear many hats, and they wear them brilliantly. That's why MTN and 702 want to tip our hats to all the incredible SMEs of Gauteng for being such a valuable part of our communities and a vibrant force in SA's economy. And the 702 Small Business Awards brought to you by MTN, because MTN is here to help grow their businesses and move them further. Go to primemediaplus.com now, enter your SME or nominate a small business doing big things in the 702 Small Business Awards, brought to you by MTN. Today, we make moves. T's and C's and more on primemediaplus.com.
Make soccer season legendary with Hollywood Bets. Aziz Shagay, Let's Play takes your disky passion to the next dimension. Light up the games with your best bet slip and stand a chance to win your share of 2 million rand in prizes, including a brand new Toyota Fortuner. Bet a minimum of 10 rand on any soccer fixture to qualify. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. Hollywood Bets supports responsible gambling. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counseling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp HELP to 076 675 0710.
My family's struggling with snotty noses and phlegmy coughs.
Oh no! Have you tried ACC?
ACC 600 is a convenient one-a-day effervescent tablet from 14 years of age, or now also in a no water needed fruity flavored sherbet-like granules that dissolve in your mouth, ideal for the on-the-go adult. Ask for ACC 600 effervescent or oral powder at your nearest pharmacy to get rid of the snotties and flemmings. And trust, if it doesn't say ACC, it's not ACC.
The 2025 Public Works and Infrastructure Summit is here under the theme Turning South Africa into a Construction Site, Growing the Economy and Creating Jobs. The inaugural summit is set to take place tomorrow at the Sandton Convention Centre. Catch this show live from the Public Works and Infrastructure Summit as we bring you all the live updates, highlights and more. Don't miss it. Brought to you by the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure on 702.
702.
Family Matters.
It's 25 minutes before 12 o'clock on our Family Matters feature this morning. We're talking about just the reflections of our parents and how they raised us, and especially in cases where that affected us in the wrong way. And you are an adult today because of how you were raised, because of certain decisions that your dad or your mom took. There have been consequences for that. How do you rationalize that? How do you acknowledge where those shortcomings by your parent? And how do you do that without falling into victimhood, but by actually accepting that your parents are human beings and you can move on with it? Or maybe you want to have a conversation with them to find out why they took particular decisions. And maybe you want to call it something else. I called it healthy blaming earlier, but I know blame also can have a negative connotation, because some people believe that when you blame someone, then you're pointing fingers and saying you're wrong. Call it whatever, maybe just your reflections, because sometimes we put our parents on a pedestal that even when we can see that our certain behaviors are as a result of what happened to us, or the decisions they took, or how they parented us, or how they disciplined us, or how they kept quiet about a sexual assault, whatever the case is. How do you rationalize that? How do you see that and move past it so that you can continue to have a genuine, beneficial relationship with that parent, especially if they are still alive? Let's start with some WhatsApp voice notes that have come through on 072 702 1702.
Hi, Clement. Morning. Clement, the issue on our parents or mothers or fathers on how they treated us. Clemza, I look at it like this, and like since I've looked at it that way, I've found peace, internal peace. I'm at peace with every decision my mom has had ever taken for me, about me, that she did the best she could under the circumstances. She did what she knew is best, and it might not be right in my eyes now, but I have not lived what she has lived through to make the decisions that she has made. So I try and take it with a pinch of salt and try and be better now that I am a parent, but as well. So it's I don't judge, but I accept and I see where I think she's made mistakes, and I accept it, and I just try and move on with life.
Yeah, and I suppose, Kefilwe, that's one of the ways to look at it, right? Is accept, our parents have also had, the same way that sometimes we face circumstances that push us to make some tough decisions. They were also there, and just accepting that they did the best that they could maybe is the way to also move forward.
But was it the best? I differ a little in this way. So question is, okay, just expanding on the who is blaming and the what. So let's expand on the what. So the who is blaming. It could be outside people. It could be the children themselves. And then the what is conscious parenting informs us to say, let's differentiate between the things we can blame parents for and the things we cannot, before even accepting to what they did. So, for example, you started beautifully by saying that most of the kids, and it's a reality even today in my practice, most of the kids blame their parents for not divorcing earlier, because perhaps let's look at the best interest of the children's standards, as according to the Section 7 of the Children's Act. That informs us whether in whatever situation as a parent, you've got parental rights and responsibilities, which are, number one, to look at the best interest of the children, not your own. And I know it can be very subjective as to what is the best interest. The parent, in their defense, they could say, but I wanted you kids to grow up in a family home with your father and have a parental figure, a father figure and a mother figure in one household. Okay, great. But whose best interest was it? Let's specify and be very clear. Mom did that raise kids the way, and you also have to listen and hear from your kids. Listen to them and hear from them as to was it best for them in their own way. Hence, I'm saying I'm not just going to be objective or subjective as a mother and say, this is how I looked at it. Or so it must actually come from these people, and they reflect and they inform me, and then they can make that choice because it's in their best interest. And just slowly to roughly to go through that. Parent, their description is as this: you must, as a parent, have you must protect or provide rather for the needs of your children. You must build their self-esteem. You must know how to communicate with them, whether they can accept the communication or not. The honors lies with you as the parent, because you have authority over your household. Help your children to resolve problems and protect them from abuse and other things. So that must not be compromised. And of course, we will sit, me and you, mother or father, but while we do that, let's not just quickly run to resolving so that we can say, no, we see. But the process of resolving is what is more important to me. And dig as to what happened, how it impacted on me as a person that I am today, and what can we do about it moving from here. That reflection must happen before even accepting or to say, oh, I see when my mom was a single mother, what was she supposed to do? let's go deeper. But we don't have that nature of going deeper as families. We just leave things as they are, and everybody goes their own way.
Yeah, in fact, I got a message from someone here, Odike Lady on Twitter, who says, Clement, Matata here is that our parents avoid uncomfortable conversations by all means.
Exactly.
So what do we do then, Kefilwe? Because, some people are like, I would like some closure. I would like to get where maybe my parent was at the time. But yeah, what's it's very difficult to have these conversations with some of our parents.
Well, true, that's a reality. But again, conscious parenting says, let's use mediators. People are there. It can be my professionals or my profession rather advocates for that to say, call us guys. Honestly, Clement, they are not using us. We are mediators, but people are not utilizing us. So we use us, not even when there's a problem, but just to start the conversation with your mother, with a third person in the room, and see how that will resolve many other issues and can prevent other issues. But moreover, how we can build our relationship with our parents. We start there, involve another person because most of the times we are too subjective. Therefore, there's no rationality that we can apply in that circumstances when it's only us. However, but I've tried it with my family. We've said, we sit in this meeting. My mom comes to a family meeting. We sit and we conscientize each other upon entering into that meeting to say, guys, before we can have peace, we must work on things and undig things that are not giving us peace so that we can do better. And my mom, you must see her, Clement. She always say, you see how she cringes when we say certain things, because now I can be radical, but effectively so or progressively so. And say, don't worry, Mama, we must talk about these things, Mama. So the how is also important. We must have the capacity to know how to do it, not being too radical or too the 2000 about it or too modern for a child. You must know how do you help this conversation using the way your mother is or their personality or your parents, how they are, and have an entry to say, Mom, I see 1, 2, 3. And then you start beautifully, then you introduce whatever disharmony that you are bringing and highlight the goal. Don't just blame without highlighting the goal. Mama or Papa, family, this is the meeting to help us resolve issues and get here. When you see that people are being personal and irrational and too emotional and desensitized. So I love desensitizing first before we can embark on the journey of resolving.
Yeah, and we must also be empathetic to know that our parents are also coming from a different generation where things were not spoken of. So also you just picking up a call and calling a meeting with the parents and saying, I want to address this. It's not going to work because you're going to make them uncomfortable. So there's so many things to consider here about where our parents come from, the generation, how they were taught. The way we parent today is very different to how parenting happened then. The way we have conversations even with our kids today is different to how our parents had conversations with us. So there's so much that you need to consider. And I'm saying that because, some people will just say, yeah, Mom, I want to talk about this. You did this. And when their mom is uncomfortable, then they say, yeah, she doesn't want to take accountability. No, how responsible are you in how you're raising these issues? How empathetic are you and in your understanding of the context fully? Tabogo, you are calling from Pretoria. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement. What a lovely topic. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yes. So just for background, I grew up with both my parents. My dad was not working. My mom was the only one working. 4 girls. She was a till packer. So it was really like a tough environment. I had a very angry mom, very angry. And like you said, we try and make excuses because when growing up, I thought to myself, you know what, it's tough. Maybe that's why she's treating us this way, And then as we grow up, then I just realized that in my own little corner, it's not something that we addressed as a family. I decided I wanted to heal, and then using those excuses, it sort of helped me to draw closer to her, to a point that now we are able, we've not really discussed it, but we are candidly able to talk about it and be like, yo, you were like this and that and that. And you can see the sadness from her face, to be like, but I didn't mean it to be like that, or but she was a very angry mom. Even we couldn't have relatives visiting us. Everybody knew Mayamsaba, the whole family, because of she was very angry. So you can imagine the environment. It was cold. It was bad. And it's not like I'm blaming her, but this was our reality as kids at the time.
Yeah. Did you guys get to understand why she? Because I had a mom who was strict. My mom was very strict, and when I grew old, I realized because she was a teacher at a high school, and you know how kids can be mean and stressful to teachers, and I realized that actually it could very well be that this poor woman was frustrated at school and brought that frustration at home. You know what,
Clement? We never did, but I think because my dad never worked, and we were just 4 kids, and she like minimal salary, where haircut maybe like mashonisa, and everything was on her, and only then when we started growing up and then we started working, things started getting better, and me and my older sister started helping the little sisters at school, paying body school fees. Things started getting better and better, but at that time it was hostile. It was horrible. Like I was at boarding school. I hated going home, because you get home to this mom who's very angry. And right now we still don't we have not addressed the issue. We talk about it jokingly. Mama used to do this, but you could see, now I can see how sad she gets when we talk about it, and it has taught me that now I'm very careful with my kids. I've got 2 girls. We talk. We need to talk. We talk things out. Whether I did something wrong, they did something wrong, we talk about it. Nobody's going to shout at anybody. We just need to talk and find a solution.
I like that you're also using that as a lesson on how to raise your own children. I think we need to also pay more attention to our mothers' lives. I would love to know about what state of mind was your mom at that point? Was she feeling the pressure of just being the breadwinner at home, and she's not even able to, maximize on this menial salary that she's receiving? What is it? Was she being abused? What was she dealing with? It could be anything. And I think the minute we are so empathetic that we actually care about our parents as human beings beyond them being our parents, that's going to take us there. I have a younger sister who often asks my mom uncomfortable questions. She's Kili 2000. And these young ones are so brave. She'll ask my mom, was our dad your first boyfriend? I wouldn't ask my mom that. But these young ones are interested in our parents' lives beyond just them being our parents. They care about, what was your life like? Did you have boyfriends? Who hurt you? How did you deal with boyfriends betraying you? Stuff like that. And as children, we never care about that. We never care about what happened to our mothers and fathers as human beings. What made them angry? What was a traumatic experience for them? And I think we need to learn to do that. We need to learn to care about them as humans, because they were not born to be our parents. The same way we're not just born to be our children's parents. We're born to live. We're born to be individuals. And part of being individuals can bring about a responsibility of parenthood. It's 11 minutes now before 12 o'clock. We'll come back with more of your calls and WhatsApps.
Aubrey Masango.
Weekday evenings,
8 to midnight.
Our political parties in Parliament are not finding each other with regards to budget proposal by Enoch Godongwana is going to be adopted as the official South African budget going forward. There is so much disagreement, particularly as it pertains to the issue of the raising of VAT by 0.5%. We don't have a budget. The danger of it rendering various departments non-operational as budgets get depleted is concerning.
Aubrey Masango.
8 to midnight on 702.
702.
You may have many fests coming up. First job, first car, first home, first baby. Make getting affordable life insurance one of your fests. With Outsurance Life Insurance, a 26-year-old male could pay just 368 Rand a month for 1 million Rand life cover. With no medicals for qualifying clients, Outsurance Life offers quality life insurance that's quick, convenient, and affordable. Get Outsurance Life with just one quick call. SMS Life to 47578. That's Life to 47578. Outsurance Life is a licensed insurer and FSP. Limits apply. T's and C's online.
So, did you hear about your team losing?
Just a trim on the sides, please.
And there you go. Fabulous as always.
Same time next week?
Oh, indeed.
Meet our audience. They're cutting their hair, working, living their lives, sharing stories, and always listening. So if you're going to interrupt them, it better be good. Prime Media Broadcasting Sales. We help you connect with every fantastic, quirky, and exciting individual in our audience, from the barbershop to the boardroom. Let's make sure your brand is heard. Contact us at advertise@primemedia.co.za today.
Go big on style with the perfect everyday companion from Vodacom, Mzansi's fastest 5G network. Get the new Samsung Galaxy A36 128 gig on a 1.4 gig red core plan for only 379 Rand per month over 36 months. Enhance your deal when you add 49 Rand extra per month and get the Samsung Galaxy Tab A9. Available in-store and online. T's and C's apply. Further together, Vodacom.
For 60 years, Altron has led the way using technology to tackle South Africa's biggest challenges. Catch 702 in conversation with Werner Kaap on 702 Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa this Wednesday as we discuss Altron's legacy intertwined with Joburg's history and the company's vision for the city. Find out how Altron is honoring the business leaders of the past 60 years who built Johannesburg while championing and partnering with the current leaders to rebuild Jozi over the next 60 years. That's 702 Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa in conversation with Altron. This Wednesday, only on 702.
702.
Family Matters.
7 minutes before 12 o'clock, we're wrapping up this important conversation about just reflections on how our parents raised us. I called it healthy blaming earlier, because blame doesn't have to be just like pointing fingers. It can just be you saying, yeah, my parents were wrong in this and that, and I see how it's affected me, but I'm willing to move forward from that. How are you rationalizing that? I've got a few important messages that have come through here that I want to read. Anonymous says, Clement, it's Clement and Kefilwe there. Good morning. I, as a single parent of 3 sons, often get triggered by being blamed for the way we parented. I believe most parents do the best with what they had. As a parent or an adult, we can all look forward knowing that the future generations will always find something to blame their parents for. Please, I'm not trying to justify negligence or abuse. That's a message from Anonymous. Anonymous, I agree with you. I really do. That's why I said we have a responsibility as well in how we raise these issues with our own parents. Let it not be a blame game. Let it just be a reflection. Like that listener who called earlier and says, we joke and tell our mother, you were so strict or you were so angry. There's a way you can approach this matter. Kay says, Clement, this topic is hitting home. I find myself having to financially rectify my mom's financial decisions. It's killing me to some extent, and I don't know how to address the situation without sounding insensitive or being disrespectful, as I respect her as my mother. But her financial decisions are so tied to me, and it's so scary because I'll be in a financial mess if something had to happen to both of us. Also, I understand her perception of money and where it stems from, which also allows me to give her grace as she doesn't see anything wrong. But the long-term implications are killing me. Another anonymous says, Clement, my parents never told me that my dad was actually my stepdad. I couldn't even tell by an inch that he was, and could have killed anyone who told me so. I got to know about that at the age of 52 from my eldest sister, and my parents took that to the grave with them. I'm using my stepdad's surname. Life is super good and all is well with me now. What a message. And Kefilwe, I guess, again, the parents may have their own justifications, right? And say the reason we didn't tell you this is your stepdad is because we didn't want you to feel like you're a stepchild. We wanted you to be treated just as a child that belonged to both of us. But as children grow older, they're like, but you owed me that truth. I deserved to know that this is my stepdad.
And it goes back to the first voice note that the lady said, the parents do their best. And my first question was best. I would like to expand on it and say best according to who or best for who, and what is that best? Because you see, it's a conversation that as a parent I cannot have alone, and it's a conversation that the child cannot have alone. So the relational exchange between it should happen, that so that you hear from your mother's perspective or from your parents' perspective, and they hear from you, and then from there we effectively move forward, having understood each other. And so knowledge and context is very important. We cannot get into such conversations without the background knowledge and understanding as well where our parents were, so that you can say, I see and I acknowledge. However, these are the damning effects it had on me. Now I've got an identity crisis, and I'm not blaming you, but I'm just saying, look at it in my perspective from my world. So empathy again. Put yourself in my shoes. Let's put ourselves in each other's shoes so that we can see where we are coming from. Then could get into that space and move forward. That's what's needed.
Yeah, Kefilwe Mojapelo, psychosocial wellbeing practitioner and social worker. Thank you so much for guiding us through this important conversation. It's 3 minutes before 12.
Outsurance has another random fact for you. In 1998, a kid's 20 Rand pocket money meant a shopping spree at the school tuck shop. Now, they need about 70 Rand. The cost of living has gone up, but Outsurance is still committed to giving you big savings on your car insurance. SMS out to 45142. That's out to 45142 to switch and save today. Let's hear what real Outsurance clients have to say.
When you deal with Outsurance, it is effortless. They treated us like human beings.
With Outsurance, you always get something out. Outsurance has paid out more than 6 billion Rand in out bonuses. That's more than any other insurer.
With Outsurance, when you look at it, it sounds too good to be true, but it's good. It's true.
SMS out to 45142. That's out to 45142. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
PG Glass Repair, PG Glass Replace.
I'm Delane, PG Glass Technician. Got a chip? With our advanced tools and high-tech equipment, we can repair it.
World-class repair technology, only at PG Glass. Visit pg.co.za.
702 was in conversation with the Ombudsman Council, unpacking your rights as a financial consumer. Here's what was shared.
When you lodge a complaint against a bank or an insurer, they are the expert on everything. How do you ensure there's sort of fairness in resolving those disputes?
We do employ a large number of lawyers. The complaint starts with what the consumer tells us. And then secondly, we ask the financial institution to answer that, plus the documents to back it up. And we can, of course, get facts in some instances that the consumer can't. We ensure the fairness by sitting in the middle and making sure we get all the information on the table, and then we make a recommendation.
702, in conversation with the Ombudsman Council. Visit ombudscouncil.org.za to learn more.
All right, coming up next, the midday report with Mendy Winner. How are you doing, Mendy?
I'm good, thanks, Clem.
What's popping today?
So a big focus, of course, on what's happening this week with the budget. The ANC and the DA, we heard on Friday that the discussions had broken down. It now seems as though they are close to a deal on the budget. The ANC has also been speaking to Action SA, various other parties outside of the GNU. So we'll get the latest on that. We'll also look at the implications of what all of this means for the economy, what it means for the rand and all of that. A petition to get justice for a 7-year-old abuse victim. There's been a huge amount of outrage around the story over the weekend. So we'll find out the latest about that. A man's in court for the Soshanguve murders, and then we'll wrap up the weekend sport.
All right, that's the midday report with Mendy Winner. Thank you for listening to the Monday edition of the Clement Manyathela Show. We'll be back again tomorrow between 9 and 12. Have a beautiful day, my friends. Bye-bye.
This is EWN.
Good afternoon. I'm Mbali Dlamini. EWN has learned that the ANC and the DA are close to sealing a deal over the country's budget. It's also understood that an agreement has been reached with smaller political parties. This is ahead of tomorrow's Finance Portfolio Committee sitting, which is expected to present and adopt a report before Wednesday's vote on the budget. The ANC has been holding meetings with both its Government of National Unity partners as well as the opposition. Tshidi Madia has more.
Despite Action SA laying down the gauntlet last week, EWN understands an agreement has been reached that will see the Green Party supporting the ANC on the budget proposal. Action SA is likely to present an alternative to the contentious 0.5 percentage point VAT hike announced earlier this week by Finance Minister Kefilwe. However, EWN also understands the DA isn't fazed by this, believing that the ANC is only using Action SA as insurance in case talks between the two major parties collapse. Insiders claim a deal is close, with the ANC and DA left with minor differences to iron out. Parliament votes on the 2025 budget on Wednesday. Tshidi Madia, Eyewitness News.
President Cyril Ramaphosa says the establishment of a national water resource infrastructure agency is one of the biggest reforms in the sector to date. The president reacted in his weekly newsletter this morning. Ramaphosa says the new agency will be responsible for developing and managing national water infrastructure and will also source financing for similar projects. Babalo Ndenze has more.
In his latest newsletter, President Ramaphosa says the Government of National Unity has prioritized achieving a secure and reliable water supply for communities and also support economic growth. Ramaphosa says delegates at the Water Indaba were tasked with developing a sustainable turnaround plan to keep the momentum of the structural reform process started under the 6th administration, which identified major challenges in the sector. He says these reforms include reinstating the drop water quality monitoring system, significantly improving the turnaround time for processing water use license applications, and a raw water pricing strategy. Ramaphosa says the establishment of a national water resource infrastructure agency will be part of these changes and is one of the most significant reforms in the sector. Babalo Ndenze, Eyewitness News.
E-hailing drivers in Cape Town are frustrated over difficulties in obtaining operating licenses. By law, drivers found on the road without an operating license risk having their vehicles impounded. The Western Cape E-hailing Association says this is unfair. The association's Omar Parker says a more reasonable course of action is needed to address these issues.
We have argued for a progressive approach to be adopted when it comes to impoundment. In other words, if you are found without an operating license, the law should not immediately punish you and take your car. There should be a progressive kind of approach.
Department spokesperson Munira Ali says that the city has agreed to support approximately 3,300 new operating license applications.
The PRE proceeded to approve the full allowed quota of new operating licenses on a first-come, first-served basis. As a result of the quota being reached, the City of Cape Town has indicated that no further operating license applications will be supported.